Я подтверждение ситуации передаю на стройку. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, AK heads, we are back with another episode of the Talking Lead AK Korner, Season 3, and this is Episode 6. We are halfway through Season 3 of the AK Korner. And befitting, this is also Episode 399 of the Talking Lead podcast. So 762 by 39, 399, get it? Hey, that's pretty cool. So we're going to be battling it out on this episode. I thought this would be a good episode to bring in the big guns and have a battle royale against the AK versus the AR. And it could be the AR-10, it could be the AR-15, just the AR platform versus the AK platform.
AR-10 suck.
Do what? Air guns suck.
Shots fired.
So there you go. It's already starting. The battle has begun. And we're waiting on one team member, and he may or may not show up. He may be MIA. We're waiting on Brian from Occam Defense Solutions, my consummate co-host for the AK Korner.
Similar to the AK's accuracy, MIA.
He's in Gulag, comrade. We'll not see him again.
I like it. But if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you go back to last month's episode where we kind of veered off track from the AK and we talked. Jeremy, we talked to the Uzi. You sent us one of the probably most knowledgeable just firearms guy, but he knew a shit ton about the Uzi, Tom Alabrando with IWIUS. Tom did an amazing job. Did you get a chance to listen to that episode, Jeremy?
I did. I call Tom Fromer. Like, the amount of information he has stored in his head about random things.
It's crazy.
We were in Israel doing a tour, and he pretty much told the tour guide to shut up, and Tom continued the tour. I was like, oh, okay.
So he was going to join us this episode because I know he would probably have a lot of info on both of these rifles, the AR and the AK. But Jeremy is a wealth of knowledge in and of himself too, so it worked out good. But go back, check that episode out. We talked about the Uzi. It was an awesome episode, and we had Brian was on that with us too. Check it out, fun episode. But this one's going to be even more fun because we've got a room full of personality, I guess I'll say. And I'm going to start off with Team AR. And you've heard this gentleman before. He's been on our regular show, the Talking Lead podcast, been one of the longtime listeners and followers and supporters of the show. And he's gone out and started his own damn podcast as if, I needed the competition. It's none other than our good buddy Nick Dooley, host of the AR-15 podcast. Nick, welcome in.
How we doing? We're glad to be here. And, even though we are the AR-15 podcast, it is always important to have all the knowledge you can get. And I've been a longtime listener of the AK Korner, and it is one of my favorite shows of the month.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks for sucking up a little bit. But you don't do the AR-15 podcast alone. You've got a host, a co-host.
I have my co-host here with me.
Yeah. I'll be here. I'll be a man of few words, but I'll listen in and I'll chime in once in a while.
Introduce Garth to the Leadheads because I don't think Garth's been on the show before.
I have not.
No, Garth has not. So my friend Garth here kind of brings the everyman to the shooting sports. He just started shooting about 7 years ago, really in a big way.
Yeah.
And so since then has kind of gotten into it and gone whole hog into everything. We've got him into competition shooting now, and
very nice.
I have started an untamable addiction.
Very much so.
All right, if it's your first time on the show, though, you got to do a desk pop.
I left my 380 in the car, so yeah, we can use the AK. Let's bring that over here.
No, you guys said pre-show that you had plenty of guns in the room. Don't even try.
Just dub in the sound.
So for you listening on audio only, we do a video version of this podcast. We posted it on YouTube now, so you can go check out the video of this, and I'm sure you're not going to want to miss it because there's no telling what's going to happen here. But also on Team AR, we've got Jeremy Gresham with IWI-US. And Jeremy is no stranger to the show. He's been on the podcast several times. And IWI, of course, is the sponsor of the AK Korner. Jeremy, welcome in.
I'm excited to be here, man. It's definitely going to be interesting with the crowd we have this evening.
It's going to be something. So hopefully I can keep control of it and keep it on track. But, who knows?
Nope.
Jeremy is, he's kind of unique. He's with IWI-US. Of course, they make a variety of firearms there. They do the Galil, they do the bullpups, they do the ARs now, they do pistols. So Jeremy knows quite a bit about everything. So he may jump teams as we're doing this. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But he's designated Team AR. So talk about the AR that IWI is producing nowadays.
Yeah, man, we decided to make an AR-15 mainly for U.S. manufacturing to start that up and start getting ahead of what we believe is an importation ban at some point from our lovely government. But also to, the IDF purchases half X95 and half M4, and there's no reason to give that money to anybody else. So now we're working on securing that contract and doing some other stuff. But pretty good time. We couldn't have asked for a better launch of the M4. It kind of hit right out of a perfect storm, and it's seen good success, and we'll continue to push forward and try to do some other things with it as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Looking forward and excited to that. And I think we're going to get either you or Tom on the regular show, and we're going to go into details about it and talk about it. It's going to be a good episode when we do that. And then on the other side of the coin, we've got Team AK, and the captain for Team AK is still MIA. That was going to be Brian with Occam Defense Solutions, my co-host, but he is yet to show up, probably putting out some kind of fire or something like that, but I'm sure he'll join us here in a minute.
He's using a Type A fire extinguisher to put out an electrical fire.
Is that what it is? Somebody's about to get a plane crashed into their house, sounds like. That sounds like a low-flying plane. So also on Team AK, we've got Curtis Halstrom. He's a veteran of the show, been on many, many, many times. Helped me through that rough patch when I took over the show. Helped me co-host for quite a few episodes there. He's with the VSO Gun Channel. Curtis Halstrom, gun guru extraordinaire, we'll call you.
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, a man of very strong opinion.
If it has a trigger and it'll take bullets, Curtis will shoot it. May not like it, but he'll shoot it, and he'll give you his damn opinion about it too, won't you?
Yep, pretty much.
Yep, pretty much. But you're no more to be an AR guy than an AK guy, right?
So I have a pile of AKs, and I have just as many ARs. I consider myself both. I really find an affinity for the Soviet style stuff as far as like a hobby is concerned. But I hate to betray my team and stuff, but I'm sitting at my desk right now, and that is not an AK.
Speaking of your team, here's your captain. Let's see what he has to say.
About time. He needs to show up.
Brian Keeney.
I'm really sorry, man. I had hard to explain, but I don't see the invite for the call here.
So there's an email that I sent out to everybody. Group email's got the link in it.
Shit, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I'll apologize to the group in a minute here.
You would think that
They're
an
listening to you
aerospace
right
guy
now.
would be able to figure out how email works.
They're all cussing you.
Good. They should be.
So
Okay, I think I'm...
Skype. SK.
SKYP.
You're already too far advanced. Turn on internet.
Where's the any key?
Am I on camera now? I don't even see this now.
Are you on Skype?
Yeah, I mean, I've been messaging you as to what was going on, which maybe didn't come through. But,
Here, hold on.
Oh, so now he's trying to shift it to Marty's fault. That's what's going on.
Now it's my fault. There, I just sent you.
now I got it.
Refuse, deny, make counter accusations.
All the above. All the above. Yeah.
Hey guys, I am really sorry.
Fuck yourself, please.
Apologies, gents. Yeah,
like that.
but I'm here now. Are we rolling or?
We are rolling. I'm in the middle of the team introductions, and I just introduced Curtis, who is on your team, and I'm getting
I
ready
don't know
to.
if he's on my team anymore, but hopefully he'll let me back on the island.
Also on Team AK, again, a veteran of the show and sponsor of the show, we have James Bialczak with Faktory 47, who has the coolest last name ever because he has CZ and AK in his last name.
But
Yeah,
we
that's
call him
right.
Ballsack, so whatever.
Hey, you're on my team today, dude.
James,
All right, what's up,
welcome in.
everybody?
Factory
Yeah,
47.
Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
All right, I'm ready to beat up on these AR guys. Let's get going.
I can tell you're chomping at the bit. James is ready to jump into this. So we'll go back
Somebody
to the
beat that
captain.
man.
Brian Keeney with Occam Defense has joined us now. The Team
I have a
AK
question.
captain.
Is James cooking something in a sous vide in the background?
Is
Tell
what?
me that doesn't look like a sous vide over his left shoulder.
Right there.
If you look at him right, he looks like depending on the light, he does look like he's on Breaking Bad though.
Yeah.
God, what's the kid's name? I forget.
I'm not sure. So, Brian, you were putting out fires. You found the opportunity to join us. We appreciate it. Digging the background tonight, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Got the full shop view this time.
Oh yeah. Is that on? I'm
see
looking at us all sitting on a little amphitheater. There. What's with all the fancy words? Sous vide and now days? Man, I gotta up my game.
No idea what you're talking about. All I see is a grid view. Is it, you got some kind of other view?
Mhm.
I've got a view.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all are in the amphitheater, like when you did the student class thing. The class questions from the AK Korner.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You don't
have-
get that? That's what I got.
No, I've got a grid view. Everybody's in a little box on my screen.
I'll
You
send
can
it.
change it on the top of your screen.
Oh,
No,
together.
it says
If
grid
you're
view.
in together mode, you're on the little amphitheater. Otherwise, you
Oh,
can go to
that's
the grid
way
view.
better.
Yeah, this is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Look at
Way
that
better.
shit. It's way
Oh,
better.
great.
Oh, you
Okay,
can change it.
now
Yeah.
we're-
Change it
Okay, I was
yourself.
making fun of people for being technologically illiterate. Well, I'm gonna shut up.
Okay, so
I mean, it looked really cool for a second.
Team
there when Garth and
AK
I
already
were-
down 1 point.
I'm not cooking anything anymore. That's good.
No, you definitely still have a sous vide in your.
Glad I got you
Okay.
guys caught back up.
Okay.
I thought the AK people were supposed to be the primitive ones.
All right, so we're going to start off with
On the AKC.
Team AK, okay? Because what I want to do is do a little brief history. We're going to do a little brief history of the AK and the AR. And just to test the Team AK's knowledge, I want you guys to give us just a brief history of how the AK-47 came to be.
So basically, Mikhail Kalashnikov stole the STG-44 from the Germans and made it. Really? You guys didn't stop me? Like, you just gonna let me?
I love it. This is great because that's what he did.
All right.
I was waiting for you to say that Mikhail Kalashnikov isn't a real person, and it was that he was a like Big Brother, like a fiction of the Soviet government.
No.
But,
no. Continue. I
He's-
thought you
he's
guys
made up.
were stopping.
No, that's perfect. I mean, you're on the right track. Keep going. I love it.
Oh, I know. I wasn't going to go any further. I was expecting one of the AK guys to shot me down after that.
I was gonna say, can one of the AR guys jump in and talk about this tiny tank commander from Russia fighting in World War II that said they needed a better rifle?
Right.
Yeah, so
right.
so basically,
Right.
since how nobody's going to take the lead except for the AR guys, that commander got hurt, ended up in a hospital. And
Rumor
then while
has
he
it.
was there rehabbing, he went on to develop some prototypes, which led to he got reassigned to a weapons factory. There's like a whole movie about it, guys. Come on. And
You know, I saw
Then he ended
that
up developing
IMDb
the
that there is a
prototype.
Kalashnikov movie. Is that out?
yes,
Yeah, it had Nicolas Cage in it. It was awesome.
no. No, it's a
Ghost
Russian film.
It's the only AK movie that matters.
It's a Russian film. It just came out like a couple months ago, but I don't think you can get it here. I don't know. Maybe on Prime or some shit. I don't know.
I don't think you can get it on undubbed.
If you've got that Kodi app, I think you could probably get it.
Or
Yeah.
you can't get it dubbed, is what I meant. Yeah.
Very nice. So continue with the history of the AK-47. So this little Russian dude named Mikhail Kalashnikov.
Yeah, he led an engineering team. There were other competing engineering teams. They ended up selecting his team's design. It initially came out in a stamped format because that's really cheap. Like they were onto something, right? Like they had a good recipe and they knew it. However, they didn't have I don't know if it was the front trunnion or the rivets or what, but something was mechanically off with that for reliability. So they went back to a milled receiver for a while, which James helped me on this, but I believe it's called a Type 56. And then they released the modernized Kalashnikov in 54, if I'm not mistaken.
So it was the Type 2. The Type 56 is the Chinese milled. So when they came out with the Type 2, that was their like milled version.
The first milled receiver, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a weird thing. I have the prints for the Type 2, and in the part number, in all the prints, it has a 56 in there.
Interesting. I wonder if that's where the Chinese stole the number from.
Yeah, maybe that's it. So yeah, I don't geek out on the history too hard. So Type 2 is what I was incorrectly referring to as a 56. They come out with the Kalashnikov. It is incredibly good. It's in 7.6239. The Russians and Chinese fight a proxy war with the U.S. in Vietnam, and they see that the 5.56 round, while being a complete hunk of shit, that there is an idea there, and so they.
How many people have to die from being shot with something before it's a good cartridge, man?
Well, no, you can totally put your eye out with one. We agree about that. But, and I wouldn't want to get shot with one, but it was designed for prairie dogs. And that's about right. That's, for taking out a prairie dog, 5.56 all day long. But for the men, there's the 5.45 by 39 round that the Soviets came out with, that the McNamara's Whiz Kids, kind of adopted the 5.56 round and made Stoner use it. His original idea had been the AR-10, which is a man's rifle. So what's that?
It sucks and can't run.
But it was a prototype. Give the man some credit. It was never developed into a mil spec. That AR-10 was a prototype. The AR-15 was the hunk of shit that they went to war with. At any rate,
this is great. Keep going. I love it. This is awesome.
So the McNamara's Whiz Kids, these mathematicians that Robert McNamara used leading up to Vietnam, they realized that if you carried a lot of a small cartridge, like a 22 long rifle, but slightly bigger, you could carry a lot of ammo and put a lot of people's eyes out. And then the Soviets said, yeah, but you could do that with a better bullet and actually start killing motherfuckers. And so they came out with this awesome round called the 5.45 by 39.
It rusts.
It rusts?
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the other part of that is when you compared it to prairie dogs, like you were talking about shooting men. Well, I understand that's important for an AK to do, but I mean, really, when you're talking about starving communists and child soldiers, it's about the same as shooting a prairie dog.
True story.
Fair point.
Well done.
Fair point. I'll take the L.
I feel like we ought to have a scoreboard.
Oh, and Brian, by the way, that's Nick. I don't think y'all have met before.
Hello, sir.
I met Brian once at I met him at the Rifle Dynamics open house.
Oh, okay.
Travis Haley and
Jim
Fuller were there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew you looked familiar. Thank you for jogging my memory.
He had a 10-gallon hat on, I think, probably.
Oh, yeah, I had a cowboy hat on for that.
And now I hope people look at the YouTube video just to see the beautiful outfits. Are you guys married or
just getting ready for that second Revolutionary War?
AK guys have tracksuits and AR guys have Hawaiian shirts.
Fair point.
we figured we'd really rep the team tonight.
Yeah.
I like
Awesome.
that.
I see no tracksuit, so I see no, commitment at all.
All right, so the
Hey,
5-4,
hey,
the 5-4-5
one
round. Prairie Dog, go, Brian. Finish up the history.
So Soviets came out with the poison bullet, the 5.45x39. They shot a whole bunch of Afghans with it, and that's what they called them because they had a tiny little entrance wound, and then they would fall over dead. It's a 21 and change caliber cartridge.
But they only did that over there without being shot.
Yeah, right. Okay, the starving children and Soviet conscripts. That is a fair point. All of those are fair points. At any rate, that led to the AK-74 Afghan. 7.6239 is coming back. Both are outstanding cartridges, and I think that the AR-15 would step up a massive amount by adopting either one of those 5 fine cartridges, and that's my principal. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's my principal critique of the AR-15. And of course, tonight I'm being, for you guys out there, I'm being purposely kidding around and being offensive on purpose. So
and that's the purpose of this show. So we're having
There we
fun. I think everybody gets the gist of what we're doing here. So
Cool.
But
continue. Now let's go.
the only thing I have to add to that, even though I am on the AK team,
Yes.
is we Americans did do this, and we called it 300 Blackout, which is superior to all of the cartridges combined because it is all the things better than all the things. So, Soviets.
I couldn't agree
always-
more. I
always behind.
would never make a 9x39 rifle. I think that all of our guns are going to be 300 blackout by the end of the year. Totally.
Very good point. Okay, now let's jump over. Anything else, Team AK, want to add to the history?
Okay, I want to correct one thing. Type 56 did go into production in 1956, so if there was somebody listening that heard me say that earlier, I'm not stupid. Cleared that up. So I don't,
so
I
he's
don't know
Pretty,
why
it's
made-
pretty good with
and
the
therefore-
AKs because they stick with years with the names. So the AK-47, the Type 56, they typically stick with the years. That's what those usually
How many bubbles out of the whiskey bottle does he owe for that?
2 shots. You get 2 shots.
2 bubble. Do it. Do it now.
All right,
That's not you, Garth.
I'll do 2 bubble. I don't give a shit.
Team AR. Who wants to kick it off for the history of the AR-15? And I say AR-15, it's the M16, the AR-10, the family, how it got started. So, go.
So the AR-15 and what became to be known as the M16 started life also in 1956. That was when, again, we were talking about the whiz kids. When all these things came together, there's a man named Eugene Stoner who had designed the AR-10. And
A little
he
taller
did
in
that-
stature than Mikhail Kalashnikov.
Yeah, a little bit larger, more proper sized.
It was
And,
also a vision from God, though. So
and when he went through this, he designed this, and he actually, so he was not a tank commander. He actually worked for a small division of the Fairchild Aircraft Company called Armalite, and they went through and decided to take all the technological innovations that the aerospace industry was making and put them into a rifle. So when he started that, originally he started with the AR-10, trying to chamber it in something like, 308 or 270 British, which was one of the other ones that was a prototype, because that was when they were going to do the run for the worst rifle that the American military has ever produced. And I'm going to get some hate for saying it.
I was going to say, so it's nothing from the AK team yet? Okay, no jabs. Keep going.
Nope. Wait, they're doing pretty good job.
Keep going.
Because the worst rifle they ever produced was the M14, and unfortunately, that's what the U.S. chose. And I mean,
But
we
the
could have had
M14 never tried to blow off a tester's hand during testing.
fact.
So,
They had to be fully accurate the whole time. Which
but they're still not now, so that doesn't work.
I know they never
Have
worked.
you ever owned a speed? We don't utter the name of that company here. Sorry.
I have
Continue.
one in the safe.
Keep going. Keep going. This is great.
So after they went through that and they had it in 308, then they moved on, and another individual came in and took Mr. Stoner's design, and his name was Bill Sullivan. And he went on to do many other crazy things, but what they did was then he shrunk it down.
Sure wasn't Jim Sullivan?
That was Jim, isn't it?
Jim, I'm sorry. I don't know why I was thinking Bill. Oh, I know. Because Bill Ruger hired him to do the Mini 14. So I transposed that across.
That's
bad.
Okay.
But no, so Sullivan came through and shrunk down the AR-15 or the AR-10 to make the AR-15, which, again, everybody should know stands for Armalite Rifle 15. And
what does the 15 mean?
That was the model number for Armalite. Reason why it was 5 after the 10. And the AR-7 was actually a 22. That was a floating stock survival rifle that they sold to the Air Force.
Very good.
Which was how they got into military contracts in the first place. But after they went through that, so they developed this and pushed it out. They fielded it first to some Green Berets going to the military, picked it up, and it was first ordered. Well, it was sold. The rights to make it were sold to Colt, and then it was just an off-the-shelf rifle that Colt was manufacturing, and Colt sold it to the Air Force. And the Air Force bought like 1,000 of them or 10,000 of them for gate guards to use because they were trying to get rid of the M2 carbine. So after they had done that, they said, "Oh, this looks cool." And McNamara's Whiz Kids went, "All right, we should have everybody carry the same thing so we don't have all these different items in our MTO." And pulled back and said, "We're going to buy a bunch of these." So they bought a bunch of them for the Army and the Marine Corps, and they fielded them first to some Green Berets in a place that at the time was called French Indochina. And that was where they got their testing. Other people would know that as Vietnam. But they sent the original rifles over for testing, and then they said, "Okay, well, we got to change some of this." So before it even got fielded, the Army said it had to change some things, and then they went completely against the designer's intent when they said, "Okay, well, this is what you should have for ammo and how you should do the cleaning." And they told everyone, "Well, we don't have that powder, but we got a bunch of this left over from making M1 Garand rounds." So they used shitty, dirty powder and told all of the soldiers it was issued that with this space age rifle, you would never have to clean it. And that was how it got a terrible rap during Vietnam, was mainly because of bureaucratic bullshit.
Well, do I understand as well that,
fuck it up.
There's a really tricky thing with with the AR-15 in that it may have been the first rifle that mixed aluminum and steel in a muddy, swampy environment. And you can get this stuff called galvanic corrosion, where you make a battery when you put two dissimilar metals together. And then when you add water, you get current and electrolysis, and you get all kinds of corrosion from that.
That's where the chrome lining came from.
It was okay. I was wondering if there were other parts like upper receiver to barrel connection, or the barrel extension, or whatever you deplorables call it, the way an AR barrel works. If there was heavy,
you're just pissed because every rifle you had to make, you had to thread that son of a bitch in.
Yeah, no, that's cheating. Threads we're actually pretty big fans of threads, so I think it's a really fine way to build one. But for a toy, anyway.
No, and that galvanic corrosion is what led to the eventual chrome lining of the barrels, because it was going to be just on the barrel extensions, which then led to another myth that permeated throughout the entire firearms industry, and that was that every barrel had to be chrome lined, because they went, "Oh, the military's got chrome lined barrels. This has to be good." Now, I don't know if you guys have listened to our show before, but we have a thing about mil spec. So
Detail.
I feel like you're
bad we don't have any in the fridge,
my friend.
I am 19 years in the Army, and my wife just retired 22 years in the Air Guard. But I have before looked up, random things in the Army supply system when I got left unattended, and when going through those things, so everything in the world has a mil spec. It's just the military specification for it. So anytime you hear something as mil spec, remember that there is a mil spec beer. The mil spec beer is Coors Light.
Why is that?
I don't think we need to continue this discussion anymore. I feel like we have just made the point as needed.
That mil spec ain't worth a fuck, huh? It's just some government official's opinion on what something should be.
Well, It begs the question. The military always goes to the lowest bidder. So what did they pass up on the AR?
What were the contenders in the beer race is what I'm more concerned.
Was Miller High Life not a part of that? Come on.
No, it's straight up. It's Coors Light.
So that's in the code of manuals for the military, huh?
I can send you the NSN for it.
Okay.
And it will say beer, then awesome. Adolf Coors, and
I like that.
That is one of those things that's there, and that is what we say every time somebody goes, "Oh, it's mil spec." Well, you know what else is mil spec? Coors Light.
Is it the NA Coors Light or is it the actual Coors Light?
No, it is the real Coors Light.
There's no way that would fly. You're really ragging on our military, man.
James, re-ask your question.
I said, is it the NA Coors Light?
No, the one before that. You were asking a question before that.
What did the military pass up? Oh, what did they pick over the
Well, they always go to the lowest bidder. Like our government doesn't buy good quality shit, as you can see. I mean, they pick the AR, but what did they pass up to get there?
Well, when we went through it in that test that was fielded, there was a ill-fated prototype of an FN that shot an intermediate cartridge, and they kind of wrote the specs so that only one rifle could win it. Because I don't know if you've ever been around any sort of government contract writing. They legitimately wrote, okay, it has to have all of these things, and there's only one company that produces that thing.
Yeah, they still do that shit.
I
you know who you ought to get on, Marty?
Who's that?
Is you ought to get Nate from Frontier.
Yeah, they've done a lot of government contract bidding.
That he knows he's the person who taught me about the procurement process.
Well, I had Glock on, and we talked about it a little bit when they were going through the pistol contract that SIG beat them out on. And we talked a little bit about it on that episode.
Yeah, that whole profile was written for the SIG before it even began.
Exactly. Yeah.
They have to accept are the ones to say it was a fair competition, even though it was written for the SIG before it even came in, which, by the way, is the worst gun I think SIG has ever fucking made.
Well, back in the day, in 1986, when the Beretta came in, the SIG actually won all of that to go down, the 226, beat out the Beretta in every single contest. It was just one colonel in the Pentagon liked the way the Beretta looked. So he called the executive at Beretta and told them how to change it. They went from a steel frame to an aluminum frame and changed some other stuff up and got it to where they would come in at a price lower than SIG. And that's the reason why the United States wound up with the Beretta.
It's too bad they didn't change that coating on the inside of the magazine in the process, right?
Yeah. So this last pick was just a makeup call then. That's why they picked the SIG, to make it up to them for the Beretta.
Dude, don't even. Can we change the subject?
Yep,
You're gonna. My blood pressure's going up.
See, this is what I'm talking about. We get talking about the SIG pistol, and then we start talking about the other company that's in Illinois. And we can get Curtis fired up pretty quick.
Speaking of that, though, going back to James's question,
that's going to get me fired up.
When were the Israelis doing the Galil? Because if we passed up the Galil for the M4 or the M16, then we did fuck up.
No, we did not do that.
Okay.
That's one of those where we went through it. It was the spec was written and it wasn't quite where they had the Pedersen device stuff going on yet, but there were a couple other, like Winchester had a 270, like a smaller version of a 27 caliber that they entered into it. That was ostensibly a M2 that was scaled up to take a larger round and, to a more intermediate round than what the M2 carbine had. And There was one other one, but I can't remember the full test off the top of my head.
Okay. So that's a good history.
My previous statement, just for anybody,
Yeah.
The Galil was until the late 60s.
Late 60s.
Yeah, so we're 10 years out.
Oh yeah.
The Chinese have an expression though that the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time is today. And it is still not too late for the U.S. government to correct their ways and at least do a Galil in 5.56, which has been around for forever. Just saying. There are ways for the world to get better.
And if you're listening, U.S. government, I can be reached at Jeremy G. at.
I will say something. Speaking of that, if you have ever shot, has everybody here shot the Galil in 5.56? The ACE that IWI is doing? Has everybody shot that thing? The cyclic rate on that thing is retarded. Okay? Like, it is so...
What's the rating on it, Jeremy?
Fast? I don't know.
Fast.
Fast as fuck.
800, 1,000? What is it?
It's quick, man, but it's super
faster
controllable.
than M16. Okay.
Yeah, it's controllable by a lot. If you're coming to Kalash Bash or Red October, we bring the 21 ends with us, and Curtis shot the 8.3, and then now we have the crazy part is I don't know why we never brought in the 13-inch Galils, but we're bringing them in now, and that and the machine gun, good time too.
When Jeremy is at a trade show, there are very few guns that I actually want to shoot at a trade show. I walk over to where IWI is and like, did you bring the Galil in 5.56 auto, and did you bring the Negevs? That's what I want.
In any caliber.
In any caliber, I don't care. Right?
You're gonna have the Negevs at Kalash Bash?
If you really want to get my blood pressure going, why we haven't switched? The only reason we haven't switched to the Negev is politics. Over
100%.
Well, politics weighs 100% on everything that goes on. So let's move on. Let's get to. Are you done with the history? Let me ask you that. Anything else you want to add to the history, to the AR?
Well, so going through there and adding the chrome line barrel gets us pretty much into that. Then we can move into the 80s and where we started to modify it more. We shortened the barrel. Actually, this again came from the Vietnam War, where to get in and out of vehicles, some of the Special Forces group ordered them with shorter barrels. So that brought in the AR-15, which was Colt Automatic Rifle 15 that had a collapsible stock. And they were a goofy-looking collapsible stock, not the traditional one you see now. Currently still in service with the military, you have M16s and M4s. Initial issuing of the M16 and M4 had a 20-inch barrel, and now issuing for most civilians, you'll find, the most common variant would be a 16-inch barrel, and the military's is a 14.5, but because somebody says you can't have that, we have a 16-inch.
And
correct me if I'm wrong, weren't the original ones also like 1 in 14 twist?
1 in 12.
Okay, 1 in 12.
They were a 1 in 12 twist, and it shot the bullet weights, everything ballistically was wrong. They were just, the original M16 was just dumb, and then they moved on to the A1 before it ever got fielded, because they realized that they were going to be shooting a little faster and stuff like that. So,
and even though I'm on the AK team, you have to remember that when they were adopting these rifles, when they were trying to put them in, we had just gotten our shit packed in by the Chinese and Korea. Okay, so they had just we were doing great work, but then they just, when you march 1 million people into the thing,
what rifle were the Chinese using?
At the time, it would have been Mosin's.
Yeah. It didn't matter what gun they had. There's so many of them. We literally could not put out enough bullets. So that's where the idea of a rifle that has decent accuracy but also has the ability to put out a wall of lead rather rapidly was like, hey, we can carry lots of bullets. We can put out a lot of lead at once. That's kind of one of the overshadowing things that I think was left out of the AR history here was, hey, we got a problem. And that is, now we're fighting wars against people that will literally throw walls of bodies at us, and we can't machine gun them fast enough. we need real firepower in the hands of every soldier. Because at the time, we're using full rifle cartridges. We were using the Grand, and there was, I believe,
BAR.
The
BAR.
The BAR, and I think there were some 30 carbines and some initial feelings of the 14 and things like that. But for the most part, your 8 rounds in your gun, and you also had the Thompsons and things like that. All those sort of holdovers from World War II. That was a very strange age where we had all this mishmash of weaponry.
Transitional period, yeah.
Transitional period. We just came off of a major world war. We got all these different calibers, all this different shit everywhere. None of it works with itself, and I think you touched on that briefly. And we're literally don't have enough bullets to put in the air, and that's kind of one of the things where they kind of went, "Hey, let's fix that." And it sounded, in that context, it sounds like a really damn good idea.
Yeah, that was right after the Chosin reservoirs where you're talking about,
exactly,
where they came walking in and they were literally throwing hand grenades in waves. Clint Smith has a video where he talks about it, and he talked about meeting a couple of
little quilted jackets. It's my favorite video on YouTube, period.
Yep. Talk about it, and thank Christ you have a 30-06 because it just pops those little quilted jackets. But
it's right on go.
No, that was very much so that, and also that also changed a lot with how the United States military did their training doctrine. It's even after World War I and World War II, they started to change it to shooting at humanoid silhouette targets to make it easier because, they'd always practiced marksmanship. It was overcoming the psychological effect of having someone actually shoot at another human. Good
points. So, does that wrap up your history? Anything else you want to add?
Yep. No, that'll wrap up.
That's a good history. Good job. Very good. Very good. Well, we wanted to keep it brief, but that's good. Those are points that to win your argument you need to make. So let's get into some of the battle topics here, and let's get into the manufacturing differences between the AR and the AK. Who wants to start us off? AK, Team AK? Let's go Team AK. We just talked about the AR. So let's talk about the benefits of the AK manufacturing that you see over the AR.
Well,
all go at once.
Curtis is laughing because he's a manufacturer and I'm a manufacturer, and he called me up one day and said, "I built 50 guns today," and I said, "Go fuck yourself."
You say that a lot. You told me that last episode too.
That's not true.
It's a term of endearment, Marty. Like, you got to become a real friend before I'll tell you to go.
It wouldn't have been a good show without that. So.
He assembled them, and they might not all work.
No, not only were they all manufactured in one day, but they were PM'd and test fired all in one day. And they functioned flawlessly.
How many came
Thank
back?
you very much.
How many were returned?
AK side or what?
I do fit. I don't just put them together.
How many were returned?
Curtis, you have made more pro AR comments in this podcast.
I'm not saying that you.
Before we continue, I want to hear you say one cool thing about the AK, so I know you're still like halfway centered.
Okay. So one of the great things about the AK was the cartridge that they chose for the original fielding, and I suppose carrying over to the 74 fielding has a tapered cartridge.
Okay, cool. Let's carry on.
Okay.
So we're talking.
So back to the manufacturing. We're going to get to the cartridges.
Keep your powder dry, Kurt, because that's where. Yeah, don't be a fucking traitor anymore. Manufacturability, I would say it takes craftsmen to build a fine AK, and all you need is peasant labor for an AR. So that makes the AK better.
That sounds strangely anti-communist.
Let's talk about the barrel specifically in the manufacturing process, AR versus AK, the difference there.
There's no difference in a shotgun barrel and an AK barrel. If you think about it, they both shoot minute of building, so you might as well go that route with it. So,
wait.
Well, actually, for a
on?
second, to go ahead and make sure that my AK brothers here are still okay here. Jeff Kirkham went out and did a fair amount of field testing when he was in SF, dealing specifically in the AK, because the misnomer at the time was that the AK-47 was a horribly inaccurate rifle. The problem came with the tactics that were used to employ the rifle, and you had a bunch of basically stupid people that would do the da 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 when they would do. No wonder you're not going to shoot shit. All right.
And for those listening, Curtis was holding his hands over his head, pretending he had an AK.
That's called
a very, very sexual gesture while I was doing it.
It was nice.
However, that aroused
it was
everyone
the
in
Somali
chat.
squat.
Yes, that, right? If you look it up, that is what you will see. However,
I think what Curtis is saying is if you don't use sights, it doesn't matter what gun you have. They're all inaccurate.
Yes. However, so a really good example is I had a manufacturer out here this past year who manufactures a gun 7.62 by 39. We were testing a gun that had over 150,000 rounds through it, and the barrel was all 8 out. But one of the standards that they brought for comparison was an AK-47 that had not a similar round count, about 85K on it. And the idea was like, hey, but check it out compared to an AK. So I literally slid the sight up to 400 yards where the target was, and I squeezed one round off and I hit the target right in the center. And everybody's like, shit. And I immediately acted like I was a boss, but then immediately got up and said that I was done. And I was hit for it. But the rifles have been proven to be accurate rifles. They just have to be used properly. And I think a real misunderstanding of how the rifle is supposed to be used, as well as field experience, led to the initial conception that the AK was an improper rifle as far as accuracy concerned. And that will have a lot of people call it a machine gun first and a rifle second, when it has all the capabilities of a rifle. I have several AKs that I can hit man-sized targets at 400 yards with if zeroed properly. I actually have one that's zeroed specifically for 400 yards for the purposes of a parlor trick, but that's beside the point. They are very accurate rifles when used properly. However, you do have to admit that the standard manufacturing processes of the U.S. market lend themselves more to AK or ARs than they do proper manufacture of AKs.
I would submit to anybody who has a question on the accuracy AK or swears to no end that it's inaccurate, to ask themselves honestly if they would be willing to stand 500 yards down range of one.
That's a good question to ask. So we're going to avoid the manufacturing question here and just get into the
Well, no, I can't speak. I have not manufactured an AK, so Brian would have. Is Brian the only one who manufactures AKs in here, like by hand? I mean, Jeremy.
I rivet them together and stuff, but I mean, I don't machine parts.
Well, you know the general process that goes into
absolutely
the making of the AK.
There's a lot more going into the AK, as Brian talked about. There's a lot going into it, and if it's built well, it can hold its own with some of the best.
And when you say there's a lot going into it, what do you mean? Because it has fewer parts. There's fewer part counts on an AK than an AR, which I see that as a positive.
Specialized tooling. You need specialized tooling to do it. You're not going to take a couple tools in your garage and just screw and bolt it together. You're pressing, you're using hydraulic presses. You need, you're doing grinding, cutting, hand fitting of parts. And I would back up one comment you made was about a well-built gun. You can build an AK bad and it still work. There's people in caves doing this stuff in other countries. The AK is a unique design in that regard, that a bad AK is still a fighting gun. It's not as good as a good AK, but it'll still stack bodies. And that's been happening. 250,000 people a year die at the end of an AK.
Well, it's pushing in where you're pressing in trunnions and you don't have those things. It's easier to manufacture a bad or inaccurate one, generally just because it's tighter, or not tighter tolerances, but the way it's assembled. It's not a locked in.
So would you say that the AK is more forgiving from a bad build than an AR?
What is your
I think
standard?
I think
What
that's
is
a
your
tough
standard?
question. I have a tough question on that, because are we talking about today in 2021, or are we talking 10 years ago? Because there's a lot of Bubba outfits kicking out really random parts today in the AR market that, depending on what you're grabbing and slapping together, there's a lot of bolts I wouldn't trust.
Are we talking about an Anderson build with a Bear Creek?
I want you guys to
Arsenal,
work it
barrel?
out. You tell me.
I was
me.
not going to name drop anybody here, but I would
in
say
Ohio.
let's go back 12 years.
Okay.
I would say yes, but by today's standard, absolutely not.
So, like, that's where it is, where AK has kind of got a bad rep as well 10, 12 years ago from the IO and the, at the time, Century was also producing them where, like, the trunnions would melt by looking at them or leaving them in a car. Like, for days where that was really bad.
Yep. That's a little exaggerated, however, fair.
I feel like there's a lot of AR bolts like that today.
There are quite a lot of as somebody who has gone through and tested every single bolt that he has purchased for putting in a rifle, a production rifle. There's a lot of shitty bolts out there. Now I do want to go back one thing. Are we sure that there are fewer parts on an AK than there are in AR?
Brian?
Well, I don't touch ARs. They're just
Not without gloves, anyways.
not without gloves and a shower with the flea dip nearby. I'd have to think about that. I suspect that
Break
there
down
are
a bolt
fewer parts.
bolt carrier group on an AR versus an AK. Break down the
There's a lot of
the uppers,
I
the
feel
lowers,
like we would
the
have to go
springs.
down and because you're talking about
triggers.
rivets. You're talking about there's the rivets, the springs, the rails.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Let me put it this way: fewer moving parts.
No, I don't think that's not what you said.
Okay, I'm backing it up. Fewer moving parts.
Are there? I think there's the same number of moving parts.
I don't know. Break it down for me.
Okay, so in an AK, you've got the bolt, and the bolt has two pins in it.
No,
and
Kurt, I'll take you right here. Sorry, takedown pins and dust cover on an AR have more parts in them than in the whole AK on its own.
There we go.
no,
Thank
I
you.
really don't think so. I
Thank
really
you.
don't think so.
Well,
Because
how many fucking parts are in a takedown pin? Like 3?
the takedown pin?
Yeah, AR-15 has
You
2
get the
takedown
spring, you get
pins,
the
right?
pins, yeah.
Yes, but yeah, you have those there, but then you have a rivet. How many rivets are in an AK?
God damn.
Oh.
Depends on the AK.
Well, no, you got the 6 up front. The bullet guide makes 7. The
There's two
trigger
pins.
Two
guard.
in the rear off
There's,
what we're talking
there's,
about.
Well-
there's 2 pins times 3 parts. I'm pretty sure that's 12.
Well, no, now dust cover. There's like 30 parts in an AR dust cover.
I
Easily.
was being facetious. The three times 2 is not 12, Brian. God.
Maybe we
That
should
was
count
more
it
math
out
going on there.
later.
Sorry.
Count it out later and then post it on the social media.
That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure if you break, I'm pretty sure that I'm confident that the AK has more parts than an AR. Actually,
Okay,
It
so for
depends on the
manufacturing question, more parts than the AR, you're saying, okay?
I'm convinced. I'd have to sit down and number them individually, but I think there may be more parts in an AK.
Curtis, we definitely need to have a war. This is good. This is social media gold for us to take to another time. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is not the place. Yeah.
I
we're gonna
mean-
get bogged down.
Okay, so let's move on.
Are we still on manufacturing differences? Are we on?
We're going to move on unless you got something to add to the manufacturing differences.
I
that's
kind
fine.
of do, just in that from my perspective, you go through all the pain on the manufacturing side. It's way harder and nastier and grosser to make an AK, but
Yep.
you've got a bolt for the life of the gun. You don't have to think about replacing a bolt. Very rarely do you replace even a single spring. So you kind of just have, like Clint talks about, get one gun, and then don't get spare parts, get another gun exactly like the first one. That works really well on AKs. But with ARs, it's like, yeah, you need all those different springs and bolts and all that stuff. And there is more maintenance on them. So, I think it's sort of a draw overall in my mind in that, it's a lot more work.
Let's go to the maintenance part of that. You hit a good topic there. So that's a good transition into the ease of the maintenance. So talk about the differences there.
On AKs, it's hit with shovel rifle work fine, but there is a little bit more than that. You do. I can honestly say I don't clean my rifles probably near as much as I should, especially since they're almost always suppressed, which is really easy to do on a modern AR. I don't know, but some AKs it works well with, but it is hard to do with many others because that whole concentric thread thing. But shooting them suppressed as they come back, with
but if you compare the original AR or M16 to the original AK, was it easily suppressed back in the day?
Yeah, you'd screw that 3-prong flash hider off, and as long as you had the right thread pitch. Granted, technology the suppressor technology wasn't that great, but yeah, it would very easily run.
True, yeah, you're limited on the cans back then too.
No, it would have very easily ran if you'd have screwed it on.
So. Well, and on Kalashnikovs, yeah, thread concentricity is a major challenge. It's something we've done a lot of work on to get easy over on our side. And there's some fundamental architecture differences that make suppressor mounting in the Western style very difficult on an AK versus an AR. However, Soviet suppressors have been, around for forever. They have a bigger front hole, and that solves all the problems more or less. But yeah, totally. In terms of using, Kurt is wincing a little bit, but he needs to remember whose team he's on right now.
Well, you weren't on earlier when I said it's okay to jump teams. So
I am a suppressor snob.
But it brings me back to what I was asking earlier. Are we doing military versus civilian, past versus present? Because silencers, as far as the military application in the 50s, not really a player versus today in the civilian sector.
And you also have to remember that suppressor technology at the time was basically a degradative device. They didn't have, well, they did have, but it wasn't as prevalent or as cheap to run a CNC machine then as it was now. So the idea basically back then is you had a medium that the bullet would fire through. And today we call these wipes, and they're made out of neoprene or some kind of other rubber-esque material that the bullet then burns through and it creates the seal. Now we have precision machining, so we get really close to the bullet without ever touching it and disrupting its flight path, and therefore the suppressor doesn't degrade really over its time. So if you've got a rifle suppressor, it's good for 100,000 rounds. And that's the reason why a lot of rifle suppressors aren't even used as serviceable, because there's no really need to do so. Unless you're going to shoot that kind of volume, then for the most part, because we don't touch the bullet, the actual suppressor itself doesn't really degrade. Versus at the time, suppressor technology was not up to the par that it is today by any stretch of the imagination. So we're talking about two completely different games between the 50s and 60s versus 2020 regions.
Yeah.
Or even like 90s, really.
And this is good because I like 90s. You guys reaching back and comparing, the originals to where we are today, to bring us up to speed. So this is good. I like you going back and
even pushing into the 60s. Some of the silencers they used then, well, obviously, the first silencer was made by Hiram Maxim, and it was a gun muffler because he went on to Maxim silencers for the Ford Model A, and used them for small engines using the same exact technology. I mean, he gave one to Teddy Roosevelt to shoot behind his house, and that was something that, was like, oh, here's this. I know the Winchester Museum in Cody has one of Teddy Roosevelt's silenced lever actions, but
very cool.
going on with those. So like the K baffle existed. It just wasn't in common use because of that machining time. Now there were other kind of the more cheaply made, like what you would consider now type silencers, which are spacers and washers is the easy way to look at it. I mean, you can take a steel tube and a bunch of fender washers and, get a chop saw out and make a, serviceable silencer out of that.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can. And the reason why I kind of framed it the way that I did is those devices did exist, and that if you can look at the way he designed them, and this isn't really about silencers, so I didn't want to go like really into that, but basically they were not nearly as effective as the technology that was the burn through suppressors, and that's the reason they created the burn through suppressors. Is when you were talking about military applications of the burn through suppressors, you really got like 10 rounds before they really started to suck, versus the fender washer design cans sucked all the time.
Correct.
So,
and you mentioned Teddy Roosevelt. I put a picture of it up there.
Yeah, if there's gun pictures that give me boners, that sort of shit. Right.
Yeah.
I saw your desk rise a little bit there. Yeah.
When you got an 1894 with a can on it, like that's what's not to love.
Yeah.
Especially
awesome.
since if you look at them, like that design had the hang down, like the drop down beneath the bore to get the volume of that silencer code does way before it was cool.
But yeah, it's not cool now. It sucks, but whatever. It's a terrible idea. Sorry, we should change topics.
All right, let's move on. So
the hang down gave him a boner. We gotta change topics.
So let's go back to.
It starts right over here about the time that you start doing that sort of shit.
Let's move to the durability. Let's go to the durability. AK versus the AR. Start off with the AR. Durability. What state your case for the durability of the AR over the AK?
Now, gentlemen, I just want to start off by saying that you can surrender now without loss of face. Just gonna throw that out there. If you say one word, though, we're going scorched earth on you. All right, please proceed.
Let them state their case, and then we'll let you state your case.
Okay, I understand that, and I know that the number one thing that everyone says is a problem with the AR system is that you shouldn't shit where you eat, because with the way it's used, the way the direct impingement system works versus the short stroke piston of the AR, when you or the AK, whatever, like when you run it back, the AR actually uses its bolt carrier group as the piston to push everything back. Like that's the easiest way to arguably say that. So as that gas comes back and pushes, it pushes a lot of the carbon down into and around the chamber area, so you can have increased fouling. If you use shitty powders or don't maintain, because I have thousands of rounds on rifles that I rarely clean, but I don't send them back to the manufacturers like certain other people do. I just generally run a gun till it quits, and then I take it apart, throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and go, well, we'll put this back together and it'll run.
Any other AR teams want to add to that? Team AR.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I've shot these M4s. I mean, I actually used to work for Armalite and was the VP of sales there as well. And the amount of guns we would get back from team shooters or social media YouTube people, cough. He's
looking at you, Curtis, not me.
I mean, if they even started to remotely choke, you just, brake cleaner and keep going. I mean, they continue to keep chugging, but yeah. I mean, I know where the AK guys are going, so they're chomping at the bit.
I even had to get a replacement bolt from Armalite from my AR-50A1 because I shot enough 50 cal ammunition through it to foul it, and I called Jeremy and said this was not my job to do this, so he had to send me a new bolt, or I wouldn't shoot the gun anymore. So I put a bolt in a box and shipped it to him, and I'm convinced that he just took it out and had his underling clean it and sent it back to me. I should have probably written on it with marker at the time, but that's an old school story.
He's not going to tell you what he did.
Yeah. However, the thing about, and this is gonna play on both teams here for a second, okay? Because while I do really love the AK for its longevity, the AR was specifically designed with a self-destruct mechanism so that it would not destroy any of the critical components and could be rapidly fixed. And that is the gas tube. The gas tube almost always blows out before any of the other critical components break. And that is and is not a good thing. It is good when you're thinking about the context that we went to as far as the guns needing serviced after a massive firefight, where you're talking about spraying thousands of rounds at Chinese crossing a river. It is not necessarily a good idea when you talk about how the guns are dealing with fouling, because that is...
So they're conceding already, Team AK, so...
I am on the AK team.
Yeah.
But I'm being a realist here that
I think you're on both teams. You're not.
They built a failsafe into the system because they knew that it's like, hey, this is the critical shortcoming. Versus when you talk about the AK guys, right? As I'm supposed to be on the AK team here, they're like, no, rifle is fine. It is okay. We just ignore it, and you're only going to shoot a few rounds before you're shot anyway, and then your friend is pickup rifle. So, like, the quality of life thing argument kind of rolls into kind of how the weapons were fielded versus like how they were meant to be maintained. There's a continuum there. There's an intersection of how the rifles were designed to be used, and
so that'll get into philosophy of use, and we'll talk about that.
I'm not trying to jump the gun here.
Yeah. All right. Any more? You got AR guys? Got any more arguments for your side on the durability? You good? You want to run?
You know, rifle's durable. It does have that that's fail-safe factor. It's kind of like drinking in or shotgunning a bottle of Jack Daniels. By the time you're drunk enough to do something like that, other parts won't work, so that you can't do that.
I like that analogy. That's good.
That's actually
anytime you bring Jack Daniels into the conversation, you're a winner.
Young man, I probably would have made fewer mistakes.
All right, Team AK, go.
All right, so for AK, I think you guys basically already acknowledged that it's probably far superior in the durability, reliability game, but not saying the AR is not durable or reliable, but I think the taper case on the AK platform tends to really be advantageous for the durability, and I think on the AR platform it really has to do. I mean, I don't even think you can even try to compare them unless you can vet every single part in today's AR. I keep going back to this today versus 10 years ago because there's a reason I'm switched.
You have to.
There's a reason I've switched. There's just so much shit out there. I don't know where to even get enough quality parts to make one good, reliable rifle. The AR that I carry with me most places is like the last of the era. And that particular rifle in multiple classes, now mind you, these classes that I'm referencing were all at the same gun range in Las Vegas. So setting it down during lunch, some dirt getting in it, just blown around from the day, going back out, first couple reps out, and it's jamming. And so, I'm have to switch to my AK to finish the class. So situations like that have constantly cropped up over the years for me, and it's a rifle that I know is completely vetted with good parts that, like, it's a no contest for me. AK just seems to always work when I need it to work. Like, I paid money to be in a class. I want it to work in the class. So those are my experiences on the AK. As far as reliability, I'll let Brian take it away with all the nerd science on it because, I mean, he'll go deep into what everybody already kind of knows, but he'll explain the whys.
Couldn't you also argue that reliability can't be mistaken for over-gas and under-sprung in the AK? I mean, every AK I've ever shot has been over-gassed.
They're built sloppy. They're built sloppy for a reason, though. And if you get a precision-tuned one that's not over-gassed, like an Occam, it's still going to be excitingly reliable.
So there's one thing that I wanted before Brian really takes it away, because I'm sure that he's going to.
He's Jones.
Oh, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Look at him.
The thing that I really wanted to kind of go back wanted to point back to something that we talked about as far as the AR is concerned, is I believe that the AK was a marrying of the cartridge and the system by which it runs on, versus the AR was designed to do the thing, which was basically, hey, make it look cool and do all the cool space age shit that we want it to do with all the cool materials and stuff. And oh, by the way, use this cartridge, right, with this powder, and don't deviate, right? So the AK is really a from the ground up, hey, this is the cartridge. They created a new cartridge for it, they didn't. They were using the cartridge that had already kind of been standardized for that era of transitional weaponry, for the purposes of being able to have that tapered case. And then basically they built this gun that was designed to use the tapered system, and it alleviates a lot of the problems. For instance, in my experience, for instance, using brass casings, which a lot of people will argue for brass use in ARs, using a brass casing can actually reduce your reliability in some AK types, because there's too much ductility in the system, and it was never designed to handle that sort of thing. So sometimes you get worse performance with better ammunition in AKs, specifically because of the issues associated with you're now mucking with the heart of the system.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off because you're getting into some other stuff. So, Brian, durability.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I mean, it's good stuff, but you're just jumping ahead. I love it.
So I wanted to loop back, at the risk of beating a dead horse, because a lot of us, know about the tapered thing, but I'm just going to go through it from first principles very briefly. The 5.56 round is technically a tapered cartridge, and you see that in the very slight curvature of an AR magazine. And so it is not technically a straight wall casing, but it may as well be. That angle is very small. And Marty's holding up two here. And the reason that the banana mag on an AK is banana shaped is because that's the angle that's formed by stacking up, or the arc that's formed by stacking up a whole bunch of cartridges. And yeah, so you can imagine if you had a slip fit, if you had two very precisely honed pieces of metal, where one was like a pencil and the other was like a tube. And you can imagine that if those two were perfectly clean and you had 0.5 of interference between the two, which is a fifth the thickness of a sheet of typing paper, that thing would just drop down nice and easy and glide right through. And of course, if we put a 0.003 diameter grain of sand in there somehow, that it would lock up, tighter and whatever you want to say. And it would bind up really good. Conversely, you can imagine a conical shape like a pyramid, but in a circle, like the tip of a pencil going into a pencil sharpener. You're going to be able to, if there's that same 0.003 diameter grain of sand inside the pencil sharpener, you're only going to encounter that sand at the last instant when the cartridge is going home. And so you're not requiring the cartridge to grind past that piece of sand the entire length down the chamber. And so when we talk about the AK being a tapered cartridge, that's what we're talking about. And the 74 has less taper to it, and is slightly less reliable anecdotally, in my humble opinion. And so that's the taper thing, and that's not really the fault of the AR-15. That's the fault of the U.S. government. And so, the AR-15 kind of doesn't have a chance with the round that it's running. So with regard to gassing, another big advantage of the AK is that the mass of the bolt carrier is very high, and that cuts both ways, because when you're overgassed in the way that Jeremy was describing, the majority of felt recoil in an AK is actually the bolt carrier having way too much speed on it, compressing that spring all the way and ramming into the rear trunnion, which is connected to the stock, which is connected to your shoulder. And that's one reason that we try to moderate our gas to be in a sweet spot where you're reaching the end, but the bulk carrier is moving very slowly when it gets there. And with the AR, it's lighter. It has lower recoil. That's a major advantage from a performance standpoint. However, it pays for it in reliability. And so there's a trade-off there where nobody's exactly right and nobody's exactly wrong. You're optimized in different ways. And so like being able to do a faster follow-up shot, Paul Howe, I took a class from him and he dropped a bunch of knowledge in that, worth training with him. And he said that he planned on using 3 good hits on an enemy to service him, is the term that Paul used very surgically, or it's a very sanitized term, but that's how he describes it. So 3 good hits on target. There's some wisdom in that if you can get a real fast 2 follow-up rounds, you can seal the deal. And so you're sort of doing a shotgunning approach if you're a high-end shooter. So that's not wrong, but several of us have James Yeager as a friend here, and he likes to talk about the AK being like a hatchet and the AR being like a scalpel. And you wouldn't want to do surgery with a hatchet, and you wouldn't want to cut brush with the scalpel. And so they really are, in deference to the AR-15 folks, they're very different things, optimized very differently. The AK, one of the ways to really make it unhappy is to let it go dry. And so that is one of the secrets, in my opinion, to keeping an AK running well, is to just keep it wet. And that's about all you got to do. There's also lots of open space inside the AK receiver where fouling can go. So you can sometimes have, through freak occurrences, you'll have rounds from another shooter going into the ejection port of an AK, or a round will bounce off and go back into the AK action, and the thing will keep running for a while. And so there's lots of open space. I also had a gun come back where the customer said that the firing pin was fused. And so I'm like, okay, send me back the bolt. Maybe there's a burr. Maybe the metallurgy was wrong on the firing pin. I haven't really seen a failure that way, but I was thinking that could be it. Get the bolt open, and there's like 30 or 40 primer, little brass primer cookies. And the rounds were so overpressured that they had extruded the primer into the firing pin channel. And the gun had continued to function for 30 or 40 rounds. I was never able to get all the little leaves of it. Had been hammered that a bunch of them been hammered really flat in all kinds of weird ways. And the gun ran for forever while still having really junky ammo in it. Let's see, that's the high points on it. I think in favor of the AK for reliability, is those aspects.
Anybody disagree with that?
I would just add that I've seen the pictures that Brian has talked about, and I've shot a lot of guns. I've shot a lot of ammo through a lot of guns, and I was actually very impressed. Is the only way that I could put it when I saw the pictures of, like, there are not a lot of guns of any type that can take that sort of thing. And part of that extra space built into the AK does allow for that extra stuff to continue to allow the gun to operate. However, it does leave extra space for some things to happen, right? Like you can't ghost a piece of gravel into your AR-15, right? It'll immediately stop. Okay, you might be able to ghost a piece of gravel into your AK for a little while, and then it finally gets into the right spot and shuts it down, is really what it kind of comes down to. Yeah. So there's a play in there.
Yeah. All right, so AK wins durability, we would say. Anybody argue with that?
With one caveat, and I think this is very, very important to make this distinction before we progress any farther in the discussion, and that is AK wins durability as long as the parts are properly manufactured.
Sure. And that's just a given. That's a given assumption that we're assuming here.
Yeah, not really.
I think what he's saying is, as long as Americans didn't make them, then
Brian,
we're good.
Brian
And
makes
it
great
is
parts.
so. Let me. I don't think this is the right time to address that actually, because that gets really into the price point of things, and everybody expects a price point for a rifle, and the bottom line is an American-made AK has to cost more.
All right, we're going to move on
100%.
now. Let's go to caliber options. And, you were talking about the 7.62 by 3.9 being, the reliability of that, the taperedness, the AK shoots that. Well, the AR can shoot that also.
Yeah, but it sucks.
So,
yeah, it really
AR
does.
team.
The
talk about
the
caliber,
AR, no, that's-
and not just the set. It shoots. There's a plethora of different calibers that the AR.
So let's
can-
just take
can
7.62 by 39 because that's going to be the most common when people are talking about AKs today. Most AKs are going to be in 7.62 by 39, especially as far as the availability of ammunition is concerned.
I think the 7.62 by 39 versus 5.56, because if you get into any of the outside rounds, I mean, these guns can shoot 9 and stuff too, but who cares?
Well, yeah,
I'm talking about the
but
two
I mean,
main.
he specifically said that. Like, if
Yeah,
you look at how the AR-15 is designed, it is not designed to shoot the 7.62 by 39 round. It is not.
That's what I'm
Up
saying,
until
7.62
2 years
versus-
ago, when C Products specifically set out to manufacture an upgraded 2019 pattern 7.62 by 39 magazine, did nobody address the problems associated with a direct insertion 7.62 by 39 magazine? And that was the gun is not built up spatially to handle that feed angle, and because of that, they've always been plagued with reliability issues. And I don't care if you're listening, you're like, oh, my 7.62 by 39 AK or AR works great. I was like, yeah, go shoot 10,000 rounds through it and tell me how it works after that. Like they're not designed to be able to handle that tapered nature of the cartridge because the feed angles are completely different when you're talking about the way the magazine stacks into the feed ramps, dependent on the line of the angle of attack of the bolt carrier, right? That system was never designed to be able to handle those rimmed cartridges that way. And that's really what it comes down to. So
if you're just comparing 7.62 by 3.9, then point made, the AR not designed well for that round.
No.
But there are other rounds that it will shoot and shoot well that the AK at this point has not been designed to do, I guess. We haven't seen. But there are more and more coming out. I mean, we've seen 50 cal AKs come out. We've got the 5.4
5.45
by 39. You've got they even shoot 5.56. There's some AKs that will shoot the 5.56. I've seen that.
Yeah, but that's
so. What's your
that's
experience
stupid.
with those shooting the 5.56 out of the
It's
AK?
stupid.
You just say it was stupid?
AK is 7.62 by 39.
So
If it's not 7.62 or 5.45, it's not an AK. Throw that shit away.
So
You're a purist,
here's the thing, though,
and that's good.
The proper guns in 5.56, the proper guns that were designed from the ground up to handle NATO cartridges, the operating system's different.
I think you lost your team. Did we lose the Hawaiian team?
I mean, call it what you want, but I would say for whatever reason, in the last 6 years, we have sold every bit of 100 to 1 5.56 over 7.62 to other countries in the Galil for whatever reason.
Absolutely, because all the comm block countries are not doing this shit no more, or they switch to NATO, right?
We're still selling, like, even countries that are comm block or that are still running comm block guns have requested to come out of that caliber for whatever reason. And
that's what I mean. It's going away.
So and if I were to order a Galil Ace tomorrow, I would order it in 5.56. Just saying. Like, it's the mirroring of the system. Now the Galil is a little bit. I'm talking about like animal. It's an absolute animal.
It is.
I'm talking
let's
about,
leave the Galil out of this. Let's leave the Galil out of this
like
conversation.
Brian, help me. Is it the 103? Is the AK-103? Or
AK-103 is the...
is that the 5.56 one, or is that the 105?
It's got to be the 105 because the 103 is the 5.45 by 3.9.
103 is 7.62, isn't it?
The 103 is
5.45.
I've had too much whiskey. I can't remember. My brain is hurting.
I think the 103 is a 7.62 gun. That's
we have the machine in our hands that I'm holding up.
The AK-103 is 7.62 by 3.9.
Okay.
The 105.
105 is 5.45, I think.
Also, sorry guys, we had a thunderstorm knockout internet, so we had to drop to cell phone.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. So
101.
So AR guys, we were talking about the plethora of rounds that the AK can be fitted for. You want to address any of that?
Yeah, sure. So there are a couple interesting ones for the AK. There's 9x39. That's what 300 Blackout wishes it would be if it was born with a functional, set of legs.
I saw Vera made one in 50 Beowulf now.
No, Brian is really being facetious right now because we've talked about this on number 39.
And then there's 6.5 Grendel that's not wrong either. And then there's a whole bunch. I've got some friends that make some very strange things that are awesome, but I really do think that the AR wins this one hands down. I'm somewhat jealous of the ability of AR shooters to just be like, oh yeah, I want to try Valkyrie or whatever, Battleship, or all these different cartridges that look like a lot of fun. I don't know if they're useful from a fighting rifle standpoint, but it's a lot of fun. And it looks like they just kind of work, kind of, sort of, and that's awesome.
James, what are you holding up?
I'm just saying here,
gun porn. No, gun porn.
If it works, why are you changing it? I mean, yes, the AR's got a lot of options, and that's great. But the AK has a 7.62 by 39. We don't need anything else.
But you don't. But there are other things.
Stop fucking with it.
There are other things available, and that's the point of this question. There are other things available.
The AR wins. The AR wins. I concede.
Yeah. So, James, is there a caliber out there you would like to see an AK variant in, or AK in? You just 7.62 or nothing.
Well, 7.62 and 5.45 are fine. They don't need to. What do they need to change? I think like there's plenty of other platforms for the other calibers. The AK was built for this, and it's great at it. There's nothing to change there.
And I think that's really what it comes down to is the strength of the AR platform is modularity. The strength of the AK platform is that it was built solid for the purposes of doing what it was designed to do, and it wasn't really built for the purposes of being suppressed. It wasn't built to have crazy magnified optics on top of it. It wasn't designed for that multi-role.
I guess here's my thing.
I know it as today.
I respect intelligent innovation. The AK was built, like he said, for a specific thing, and so they thought about the round and built it up. When we look at a lot of innovation, I'll call it, in firearms today, it's more about what'll sell to stupid people. And so they make cool Gucci shit and put ads out there, and people think it's awesome. So we take a pistol round and put it in a rifle and then push it out, and everyone, oh my God. And then they'll take their rifle and they'll put some other little stupid gadget on it, and oh my God. And it's all about making money to the American consumer. It's not about what's actually practical or serves a specific tactical purpose or practical purpose. So, to me, like pistol rounds and rifles is dumb. And taking like a rifle like an AK that's not built for the 5.56, putting a 5.56 in it or something else like that, unless you're redesigning from the ground up, it just doesn't make sense to me.
And I think that to add to his point, the average American consumer, I'm not trying to talk down to people.
I am.
In this, I'm not.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm by this statement that I'm about to make, and that is that a lot of people will shoot a 9mm AR for the first time and be like, wow, actually, it's got a lot of recoil to it. A lot of times they don't realize that direct system, unless it's an expensive delayed blowback system, oftentimes has a higher recoiling system than your standard rifle cartridges for less bang for your buck.
No,
Facts.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. 100%.
100% fact. Shooting the 9mm direct blowbacks. I mean, even if you go off something that's not with the PCC craze, switch up the other ones, like they will beat you up.
So Nick, if you go to your settings, there's a thing to unblur your background. I think you've got blurred background on, so you could take that off.
Yeah, and your thing's too far away.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, we switched to had to switch to doing it off of a cell phone now.
No, you're good now. You're set. We can
Your
see
audio
you.
is great. Your audio is fine.
You got the jizz off your lens. You're good. So, all right. Do we want to take this caliber any further? The caliber discussion any further? I think everybody made their point on as far as the calibers go. Where's my cheat
I would
sheet?
really like to see a mainstream AK and 300 blackout.
I would too. I would love to see that.
Because to do that, and this is the reason why, okay? Because the versatility of 300 blackout in the AR is that you basically change a buffer, right? You change the weight, you add a couple ounces, and you can literally Okay, let me start. You can magazine change and change the characteristics of your ammunition performance rather rapidly. However, the gun isn't going to run really, really well by going from like a 150 grain to a 220 grain bullet. Like, it's just not going to run super well. If it will run the 150s, it's not going to run the 220s very well. It will still run. It will just run shitty.
Yeah.
To do that, you can basically change the buffer system rather rapidly. Just push a pin, drop the thing in. What that would force is some kind of adjustability in the AK system to be able to run that sort of thing, to really be able to take advantage of the caliber to its fullest. And that's the reason I want to see 300 blackout go mainstream in AKs. One, because it's a more versatile cartridge.
Jeremy, you got to add. You want to say something? I could tell.
But there's a technological advancement, I think, that exists there that hasn't been really fully explored in the AK. I'll shut him now.
I mean, I'm a big fan of 300 blackout, and
I am too. Yep.
I probably own the only 300 blackout Galil because I had it custom built for me and had it tuned to run subsonics and go right into supersonics.
Bastard.
And it's an ongoing.
I have a boner.
It's an ongoing debate with Israel, because I think our weapon system in the Galil, with it already running, and the gun was already built to run the M4 mag. It's a no-brainer to me, and that's what I was curious what James' thoughts were if there was another caliber out there, because I do believe there's validity in that system, in that caliber.
And the support of that that I would add is we've talked about 9x39, which I'm sorry, I have to betray my comment. 9x39 is a fucking garbage cartridge. It's the new hotness, and that's why he was just talking about cool shit that they do in the market to try to like move the thing. It's already limited application as far as AKs in the real world are concerned, and now they're trying to use it as the next thing to bump AKs up. I don't know that it really performs nearly as well ballistically as a 300 blackout round does. So if we could really kind of use the both of both worlds here to generate a really fucking amazing gun, I feel like 300 blackout and an AK could do some really hardcore shit.
So let's get back to Jeremy's Galil
be,
in the 300. How does your Galil shoot with the 300?
I've probably only got 3K through my gun in both supers and subs. And
you run any competitions with it?
I've shot Red October with it.
Oh.
Is it running suppressed and unsuppressed at the same time with the subs and the super? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, I had the barrel tuned. We're playing with different gas port settings. I also have a KNS adjustable piston in there to get a little bit more flexibility. but it is tuned to run both supers and subs.
Nice.
Is reliable. I mean, I shot all day Red October Friday running subs, changed to nothing, shot the entire match the next day, Saturday, running nothing but supers, just to test the gun and how it would run. It's got an OSS can on there. And it's been super fun, talking with Israel, trying to convince them that we should at least, at the very least, do something with it and give it a try, even if we build 500.
Tell them to put it to a vote, and we'll vote on it. James, go ahead.
It took me a year to convince 545 to happen, so yeah. I'll get it there.
James, so to Jeremy's question, asking you, sticking to your 7.62 but 3.9 only, would that interest you, 300 blackout?
I personally don't have an interest in 300. No, I do think that
Fair enough.
That's just a personal thing, though. That I don't have any argument for it. I know a lot of the big draw on 300 blackout is when you get into silencers, and I'm not a silencer guy. I'm just not there. And I think a big reason for that is I go back to kind of differentiating between, the military civilian sectors and, what are these for? At the end of the day, they're a tool and they're for a specific purpose. And in a lot of capacities, a silencer isn't going to be advantageous or make sense, or you're not going to have the opportunity. So it just depends on what it is you're doing. And a lot of people aren't going to get into the silencer game anytime real soon. Now, if you're talking silencers, yeah, I could see exactly where you're going with that. And, also part of my bias is I am a purist, when it comes to the AK platform, and I don't put a lot a thought into the Gleals. I like them a lot also, but when we're talking AKs, I specifically think, AKM
Sure.
style. So,
yeah. Which is why I wanted to have you on the show, because you are the purist, of the AK.
I land on 7.62 and 5.45 as the AK.
Yeah.
That's fair, but I have two hearing aids that the government bought me that would say that everyone should have silencers.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm with you. What?
All right,
I can't hear you over the ringing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the tinnitus is real, but my home defense gun, you'll notice I am a suppressor snob, but
that's a hell of a can.
Yeah, I've also seen the John Level video.
I believe there's a place, and I think that it'd be great if everyone's. I have a couple myself. I just think that there's, I know where you're going with it though.
I'm gonna try and restore my team's honor here single-handedly.
What happened, Brian? What happened? Did I screw up?
Y'all a bunch of bitches. Okay, so I'm gonna go back just a little bit.
All right.
The 7.62-54 rimmed cartridge was developed in the 1800s.
Oh, 308 rimmed?
No.
Well, kinda, but no, because the ballistic coefficient on 7.62-54R blows the doors off pretty much everything that's been developed with computer modeling and CNC manufacture. It's very hard to find a round that competes favorably with 7.62-54. Then we've got the 7.62-39 round, which I think we can all agree we would not want to get shot by at all. And then we've got 5.45, that is an outstanding round. 9x39 is new in this country, and I won't make any argument for the goodness of the 9x39 ammo that exists in the U.S. I make no claim on that. The claim I would make is that it was specifically developed, as far as I know, subsonic for the Vintorez sniper rifle, which is the coolest sniper rifle on the planet if you're going to do assassination jobs at 200 yards and in. And the suppressor on it is just a series of fender washers that have been welded in sheet metal at 45-degree angles. It's the most primitive can out there. And it totally works because the pressure is low enough on 9x39 where you can get away with that kind of thing and have a short barrel and a long can and get work done. And it's my understanding that the rounds that the Soviets developed in 9x39 are outstanding and very good at killing dissidents. And so that's the argument that I would make, is that don't bet against the Russians when it comes to making a good round. And 9x39 in this country, I make no argument about. But when we can import that stuff, that's when I'm going to start fighting you guys on 300 blackout.
When that day, if that day occurs.
I live in hope, sir.
Yes.
All right.
But if that does happen, and the data does conclusively say that is the case, then I will absolutely.
We're going to move on.
However,
let's move
on.
on.
In the
Jeremy's got to go to bed. He's got a 4 a.m. call. So,
all right.
AR guys, any other comments on that?
I think we've definitely beat the caliber thing to death.
Okay, let's move on then. Yeah. Let's go to. All right, so as far as the topics go, is there any other topic, Nick, that you see there that you want to defend? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to our trivia questions for you guys. So optics mounting.
There is. I was going to say optics mounting.
Okay.
Now I realize that with something like the Occam rifles, optics mounting is no longer an issue because that problem's been fixed.
Well, there's some other options out there as well.
Like you can do the Ultimac, gas
and again,
tube.
it's like James said. Are we talking, early days? Or are we talking modern days? So,
obviously with the AKM that had the advent of being able to put the side mounted optic, like attachment style to it, and at that time you would have had. So, if you're talking about like historically when both rifles were there, I mean, the one thing that I will admit, if you take a M4 rifle and an AK-47, because everybody said that the sight radius is longer on an M4 than it is on an AK, and that is false. If you put front sight post to rear sight post and hold them upside down on an M4 and an AK, they're actually the same length, like almost exactly.
Okay.
Good.
I would agree with you that where you're going is saying that the availability or the opportunity to mount optics on the AR platform all encompassingly is much easier and more friendly than the AK. But I would also submit that depending on who we're talking about and what era we're talking about, most people can't use iron sights, let alone optics. So it's not really an even fair discussion.
Yeah, well, that is true. And where most people can't use iron sights, I mean, I've had to shoot them out before to range, where, shooting for competitions and stuff like that, shooting, 600 meter targets with iron sights. Using the ghost ring is obviously going to be way easier than trying to do it with a notch sight. But, that is one of, in my opinion, the inherent benefits of the AR is the iron sighting system that it would have. But then as you move forward into optics mounting, then the AR just has a better sighting system and sight mounting. And there are people who are going to say something about ordering whatever goofy Russian red dot, and putting that on.
No. You're not getting that from me.
I know that there are people that love the sighting system, the notch and post on the AK. I'm not one of them, and would readily concede, because we basically ripped off the AR style sights. Apologies.
There's a lot of intelligence built into the AK sights.
So the
iron sights.
The thing about the AR versus the AR sight, if you're talking about
AR,
yeah, that's what I meant. The post sight. If we're talking iron sights, the major advancement was that the peep sight has a vertical limit built into it, whereas the notch and the traditional notch and post like you see on an AK doesn't. And the really what comes into that is error. So if used properly, they're fine. The problem becomes we've built in a failsafe into the AR so that you can't really fuck it up. Basically, they designed these things to hand to 17-year-old Marines that are more concerned about playing with their dick than they are actually being able to focus on the front sight, the rear sight, and the aperture and how it orients to the rifle and all that sort of stuff. right? They wanted to mass produce them in a way that they could train everybody to use it uniformly. So when you start converting that to the civilian market in the United States, and again, I'm not trying to talk down to anybody who's using the rifles improperly or anything like that. You can look over an AK rear sight. You can't look over an AR rear sight. And that was built in on purpose. The other thing I really wanted to say there is hold the phone, because originally neither of the guns could take optics very well.
As far as mounting goes, yeah.
Carry handle.
The carry handle fucked everything
carry
up.
handle. So they came up with an idea. They popped a hole in the son of a bitch and basically mounted a thing to right like that. For those of you who can't see it, we have a carry handle mounted optic here. But that was a workaround that sucked. Okay? Like, you put your face on that stock, sir. Put your face on that stock, and you have to, I don't know how big your head is.
It's
but
big.
My head.
It's huge.
Yeah. Well, I have met him, yes.
Yeah.
It works really well for me.
Yeah, but you'll notice that if you can't really see it if you're not watching the video, but he does have to take his cheek off of the stock.
Yeah, it's more of a chin weld or a jaw weld
chin
than a
weld,
cheek weld.
Which is the biggest problem with mounting optics on AKs, which is getting them low enough, so you end up with that chin weld. The same problems existed. The big difference is the Americans' willingness to be like, hey, we need to just fucking unfuck this shit and basically completely redesign the receiver, versus the Soviets did not.
Good point.
Let's cut it off and put a pick reel there.
Great point.
They bolted something to the side of it. Be like, comrade, this is fine. We bolt to the side. It doesn't really matter anyway because we can't shoot.
All right, this is the last of our battle questions. Then we're getting to the trivia questions. And this one is, who's better and why? Eugene Stoner or Mikhail Kalashnikov?
Are we talking the people or the platforms?
The people. The people themselves. Go. Who wants to go first?
They're equal opportunists and pioneers, and I think I don't think you're going to get either who's better or whatever. I don't know. I mean, they both set a course and protected their nations. So,
yeah,
fair point.
They both were, great designers and great patriots, and I know that in his later years, Mikhail one time was mad at the Russian government because vodka had exceeded AKs in export. And really, that's something we should all strive to do, is put more guns in the world.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
If anything, I would say, I've obviously never been to Russia, but I've seen like Jim Fuller post a lot of pictures, and the fact that they've got a monument and a statue that's, I can't tell you how tall, of Mikhail Kalashnikov in the middle of Russia, basically honoring a man that protected their nation, is something that should have been done here with the pioneers of this industry, with Eugene Stoner and John Moses Browning and Samuel Colt, the people who actually built this or protected this country and built it from its heartaches. And we completely overlook it for the simple liberal facts of, we want to play nice, and it's bullshit.
Who knows? Mm-hmm. Maybe one day we'll build a statue of Brian.
Yes.
Maybe.
In California.
In California.
There was a couple of guys talking at one time about buying one of the original Armalite buildings because it was in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the building had come up for sale, and they wanted to buy it and start the Church of Stoner and
that's awesome.
Do a actual religion and church and have it all, be based on it, because you only need 250 people to be recognized as a religion, according to the federal government.
Man, that's awesome.
Really? And then
Curtis is thinking.
All right.
Well, that's like those are the same dudes that, like, the same line of thinking, the dudes that converted their churches to, like, strip clubs temporarily to be able to keep them open.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it's just ingenuity.
Big brain move.
Ingenuity.
Big brain move.
Smart people. All right, let's move to our trivia questions now.
Oh, if you don't mind, Marty, I'm just going to kick in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Neither of those two individuals would have been able to get shit done at all without all of the technicians and draftsmen and, testers and all that stuff. And so while I respect Kalashnikov and Stoner very highly, just in my own tiny little thing over in the corner here, I wouldn't have been able to do anything without my guys. And, there's guys like James and Curtis have for years, I shipped them a whole lot of bullshit to look at. And they said, no. And then I said, okay, how about this? And then it's like, no. And so guns aren't built by individuals. They're built by teams, and they're perfected by the individuals running them who give that voice of the customer feedback, to use a marketing term, that make these things great.
Are you saying it takes a village?
No, fuck you. I would say.
Look how red he just got. Look how red he just got.
His white balance has been fucked the entire podcast. His white balance has been fucked. Now he's finally got some color back in his face.
No, what I would say is Michael Crichton has a great line. He's the guy that wrote Jurassic Park and a bunch of others like Andromeda Strain. But he said, great books are not written, they're rewritten. And so it's these, it's been really, it's monumental what individuals have done together as teams to build both of these rifles up to be really excellent in their own rights. And I think that it's a testament to the West that the AR is pretty, in my opinion, I'm not an expert on the AR. The AR is as good as it is ever going to get. It is awesome, and there's been a ton of innovation that capitalism has brought forth. And the AK, you can really see the difference between capitalism and communism in the AK. The AK started off really great, and it has not yet reached where it can get. And so it's fun to see all these different companies in the U.S. innovating on the AK, where it's just starting to kind of get going, whereas the AR has had a real head start with capitalism and individual liberties and free commerce. So thank you for letting me rant, Marty.
No, that was perfect.
I know that was fantastic.
Great.
It really was. That was a real good synopsis.
Perfect to end that. Yeah, let's end that segment there. Let's go to trivia question now. We got Team AK versus Team AR. I'm going to ask the AR team AR trivia questions and the AK team AK trivia questions. And each right answer is 1 point. I'm going to start off with Team AK. What alternate use was the M16 buttstock designed to do?
Canoe paddle?
This is for Team AR.
You said Team AK.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I meant Team AK.
I meant Team AR.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was joking. I don't know what the actual answer is.
It was for a boat paddle. That's correct.
Yeah, that was correct.
It was designed in the shape of a paddle, but
Rubber
ironically, they were very susceptible to corrosion and rusting. Yeah. So, womp, womp, womp.
1-0, Team AK.
Team AK.
Yeah, Marty, I think you ought to. This ought to be a wrong answers only kind of thing. Or give it.
That would be way more
expert
fun.
questions to the non-experts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do that. All right. Team AR, this is for you. It's an AK question. Name 2 countries with the AK on their national flag.
Mozambique, Zimbabwe.
Shut up. That was
You can't use those two.
That was quick. So, yes, Mozambique and Zimbabwe. Can you name 2 more?
No, because it's going through.
It's their coat of arms, and it's.
There's because it's not Moldova. Because Moldova went through a weird thing a little bit.
Doesn't Turkey have it on there?
Burkina Faso and East Timor.
Timor. Yeah.
T-Bone? Wait, I've got it here somewhere. Hold on. I've got a picture of it. Where'd it go? I've got so many screens open. There it is.
Bro.
Oh, yeah. That's the coat of arms, though, right?
That is the...
Is that their flag? Oh, that's the coat of arms. Okay, yeah.
Timor-Leste.
So do you guys think that they will continue to use this rifle even after laser weapons are invented?
Burkina Faso.
Will they continue to use it after lasers are invented? Yes, because
Are they going to have
15
different
parts
caliber
saltpeter.
lasers?
I think Americans will continue to because we're the only ones who like to run obsolete stuff and swear that still works. What?
Like the MP5? Is that what you're referring to? That?
Wow.
That's hilarious.
Oh.
I'm not specifying on this show today.
Yeah.
All right, next question. So I've got to ask the AK team an AR question.
It's your show, Marty, but I think wrong answers are more fun than right answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was Eugene Stoner born?
Canada.
St. Petersburg.
You're just answering everything, James.
You said wrong answers only.
Okay.
I have no earthly idea. I'm going to go L.A.
At the right hand of God.
So nobody knows? No, nobody knows. Gasport, Indiana.
Ah, nailed it.
So, yeah, they got like a population of like 139.
Hey, when you edit this, go back and listen because I said Indiana.
You did say Indiana?
I did. I was like, I'm going to guess Indiana.
Well,
I never heard of Gasport though.
It's Gosport. Gosport.
It's a
That's
flyover
Gasport.
state.
It's Appalachian, man. It could be either.
Which country? All right, this is an AK question. Which country erected a giant monument featuring the AK-47?
North Korea.
You're saying North Korea? Anybody else want to guess? No guesses?
No idea.
All right, I'm going to show you.
Egypt.
Yes,
Are you talking about the bayonet that's sticking out of the ground?
it was Egypt. Yeah, there's like this huge, giant.
Bayonet.
Yeah,
It's the tip of the rifle with the bayonet.
Oh.
it's
Really?
somewhere in one of these pictures.
Dude, I'm on fire.
You're good. You are good. You cheated. Anyway, yeah, there's this
He's gonna
huge,
copy
giant
these before.
monument in Egypt.
Hmm.
Craziness. All right, next question. We got to do.
We need to do something about your tab organization here,
I
bro.
know. I had it organized a minute ago, and then I had to shut them down.
Curtis also feels very strongly about which way your toilet paper comes off the roll. So,
I feel strongly about that too. It should top.
There's a pill for that for both of you.
Should come off the top.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You guys put it on the roll?
Oh, it depends. The auxiliary roll, I have a like a little thing, and it like sits next to it, but there's like a little stand in front.
I just set it on top of the holder.
This is an AR question. What was designed in 1969 and standardized in 1979 to be attached to the M16?
The M203 grenade launcher.
Yes.
Damn.
That was quick.
Yeah, he's Johnny on the spot.
Which I am currently in the process of acquiring, by the way. I'm very, very excited about.
You gonna
That
get
took
you
place.
a grenade launcher?
Took place.
Nice.
The M79, the Thumper, the old
Thumper.
pirate gun.
All right, AK question.
How can we make the AR heavier?
What is Kalashnikov's middle name?
This is for the AR guys, right, or for us?
I apparently whoever. So
Sally. I don't fucking know.
James, you're the purist. I need to know this.
I know James knows.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
You don't know?
Oh, wow.
starts with a T. Yes.
What is it?
Timofeyevich.
I was going to say Sergey.
Yeah,
You would be wrong.
that'd be Timothy in American.
That has to. Yeah, I was gonna say that has to be some kind of.
Michael
It has to
Tim
be.
Kalashnikov is his American name.
It's like those Asians that send you emails. They're like, "Hi, I'm Wendy." It's like bullshit. You're fucking.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that, with the
Call about your car insurance.
calling about your warranty. And my name is Steve.
All right, AR question. What was changed to accommodate left-handed shooters on the M16 AR-15?
I don't know, something stupid because only left-handed people are.
That was the brass deflector.
That is correct. Ding, ding, ding.
Wow.
People who shoot left-handed are wrong. They should have been hit with a ruler when they were a kid.
I've got one right
That's the
beside me.
wonderful thing. I am a southpaw, and I shoot all my guns right-handed.
Is it right?
All right,
Somebody
AK
taught you how to
question.
shoot right.
No, I just picked it up. That's how I play guitar right-handed too. So
He got shot in the eye with a BB gun when he was little. That's why.
yeah, no, true story.
Which Middle Eastern dictator had a gold-plated AK-47?
Saddam Hussein.
Which one didn't? That's the more important.
Yeah, I was like,
all of them.
Every African leader ever.
Saddam Hussein.
All of
and
them.
bring me the gun of Rambo. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yes, Saddam Hussein did. Yasser Arafat had one. Like there was 4 or 5 that had them.
So he had not one, Saddam, when they raided
He had a
him.
few. There were Tabuks. He had an underfolder and a fixed stock.
He had shift tons. So here's some of his collection here.
Yeah.
He had chrome-plated
hang on.
pearl
That
grip.
chrome-plated one is nasty as fuck.
with pearl grips.
Damn.
That one had to come out of Pakistan.
That would make a lot of sense. Holy cow, that MP5
Check
though.
that MP5 out.
The MP5 is still a stamped sheet metal piece of shit.
They confiscated that one from him. There's
That's a Beretta. If you go down one,
that?
isn't that the Beretta?
No, that's
It's like a grease gun or
grease
something.
gun.
No,
yeah.
that's the Beretta BM.
The one the grease gun was modeled
Yeah,
after.
like they went to it because it has the foregrip on it.
Yeah.
It kind of has an AK or an HK slap that you can do to it, because on the side there, that stock folds back around underneath or back out, right by the barrel there. It looks like a little beard
That
hanging
one?
out.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That goes
That's
back
actually
here.
a side folding stock,
Oh, nice.
and that folds out to the side. A couple of years ago, Numeric Gun Parts was selling those as kits.
No
that
way.
one there, that was in the embassy.
Another gold
Or-
MP5.
Check out the
Yeah.
RPG.
Yes.
Gold-plated RPG. This guy was ridiculous. 50 Desert Eagle. So
Eagle.
Gonna fit well in with Chicago's crowd.
all right, next question. This will be the final trivia question. Then we're going to go to our listener questions. So go to Facebook and Instagram. Start fielding those. Are we on AK or AR question?
It don't
Yeah,
matter.
I feel like
Just
it's
ask
better.
one. Okay, let's just ask
Yeah.
one. Which historically peaceful country made a coin featuring the AK-47? Somebody you wouldn't think of.
I don't know, but I feel like James is going to have to buy one online now. He's going
That's
to
so-
find
Yeah,
it.
I feel
He's
like
gonna
if he
find the
doesn't own
country.
one in a month, then he's not a real AK purist.
He's not a purist. No more.
It
Nope.
is.
Fail.
And let's see if I can get my tabs right. I probably don't have my tabs right. I think it's right
Let's
here.
go with Switzerland.
It's right here. It's New Zealand, and that's it
Ah.
right there.
It is a
There's a
peaceful country.
I would have never guessed New
No.
Zealand.
Does it have the White House on it,
See,
too?
there's the. It looks like it, doesn't it? Looks like it's got the White House, and there's the AK, and then they've
And is
got
that
a
It's got a
is that a
Holland and
double-
Holland side by side.
side
Is that a
by
double
side
shotgun?
shotgun. Then there was Russia did one. They did a commemorative set here, and it came in a AK-47 magazine shaped container.
So I think what
That's
we
like
learned
those-
from this
It's like those
trivia
Donald
is
Trump
that
coins.
I think what we learned from this trivia is that the AK has been on countries' flags. It's been made gold. It's been on coins in peaceful nations.
People worship
And the AR
it.
is-
It's
Now,
they
not
made
as
now
church.
hold your tongue.
Churches.
Right there.
Right where?
You want to talk about gold?
Uh-oh.
I think we just established the AK is better.
No.
It's more.
No.
It's more worshipped. That's for sure.
Wait for it.
Hello
Wait
Kitty.
for it.
Hey, gold Cerakote don't count. I'm talking 24K, baby.
Hey, there's that
Well-
building. There's that monument right there.
We're redneck out here, so we have Cerakote, not
No,
24.
I had a customer commission this one for me.
Look at Nick.
Gold
Nick's holding up a
Rust-Oleum?
gold-plated AR-15.
It's not
Is it-
plated. You can't plate aluminum. That's Cerakote.
Technically, you can plate aluminum. However,
If you really must know, this is like mechanics heavy gold flake, like for doing classic cars,
Ah,
then coated with clear Cerakote.
gotcha.
Yeah, you can electroplate aluminum. It's
You
just
have to make the aluminum electroplatable, which is a bigger process.
Yes,
A much bigger process.
the amount of energy required is not.
Tell them about the
cost-effective.
trigger, though.
Oh, wait. So at
my
the
God,
beginning of the
who
show,
said
I told
that?
you
Who said
guys.
Who said that? Tell them about the trigger, though.
No, this is just a standard binary.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Binary.
Okay, I thought that was an inside joke. Never mind.
No, it isn't. It's I had to put an FRT trigger into some other stuff for the same guy who ordered this one.
This
Okay.
This
Cut
corner
it.
over here.
We got to go. We got to roll it. So each of you were supposed to come up with a question for the other team. So
No, I thought we were supposed to come up with one question for the other team.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Collectively.
one question for the other team. Yeah, that's what I said.
We handed that to Bialczak.
No, I thought you had one.
No.
Oh.
No.
I got a good one that I
Thank you,
didn't
Brian.
get covered earlier. So, the AR-180 is, I didn't take time to trash the buffer tube and all that, and the lack of foldability without extreme use of extra parts. The AR-180, I really did enjoy that. Trying to correct the critical flaw of buffer tube in the AR, and I'm wondering, what the history of that was, and if that was directly, the 180 seems to be the 180 rotation of the spring. It would be my guess on the model, but if you could go over why it's called the AR-180 and what the inspiration was it AK or was it just that Stoner got his head out of his ass?
Before I answer this, I'm going to let Nick take this question too.
So the AR-180 is actually started life as the AR-18. The AR-18 is what it's known. The AR-180 is the civilian semi-automatic variant of it. It was marketed to several different militaries, but never picked up and widespread by any. One of the problems with it was it used a proprietary magazine, so it did not take standard stain egg mags. But the IRA loved it, and it was actually nicknamed the Widowmaker. So, all the provos had it. But when they went through, it was after looking at some of the issues that the M16 originally had in the fielding. Stoner came out and decided that, hey, there's a better way to do it. So they looked at, allegedly, according to urban legend, they saw an AK and he went, well, let me combine all of these together. And then he did the dual piston on top, the dual spring on top to make everything work right. And then created the AR-18, which Brownells is now selling as which would not fit on an AR-15 or AR-6 or M16 upper. It had its own proprietary lower receiver. And then Brownells is now making, the ones that will fit on an AR. And Kurt, they do make those in 300 blackout.
That was a good answer.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome.
Great answer. All right, Team AR, ask Team AK a question.
Okay. So, with how many countries has or did the Soviets license the manufacture of AKs to?
Like legally,
I don't know. I don't know that
their terminology is off. All right.
Yeah, I don't think they licensed it to anybody. I think it was stolen.
Well, they did it. They did
license to Egypt,
and I think Poland and Bulgaria. So probably 3 or 4, maybe.
A lot of
North Korea too, didn't they?
Countries did. A lot of the African countries and all the Wasser Pacts, which was they got a lot of things going for that because of how it was. They standardized all the Wasser countries did on 762.
Warsaw.
Yeah. Warsaw. Sorry.
It's okay.
There were a few countries in there that did not, though. So I'm gonna guess 4.
See, I had the answer earlier, and I got to find it back on my phone. But it was it was a surprising number because it was like 6 or 7, because they did but then there was the unlicensed version of it because like the Egyptian AK tooling got given to Iraq, and
Please, can you please recover that and email it to me? Because I would really like to have that information.
Iraq mostly ran Romanians and Yugos, and the Tabuk is a ripoff of the Yugo. The Egyptians were built under license by the Russians, and their factory was actually built by the Russians, and a lot of their early parts were Russian parts.
Because the Egyptians have never, ever been able to make fucking guns to save their life. If you go all the way back to the when they were using the Mausers, all that shit.
Oh yeah, they're terrible. Egyptian Mausers, garbage.
My God. So I had the fortunate, I had a big boy job back in the day, and I worked with a guy who was in my lab that was a collector of Mausers, and he took the time one afternoon to walk me through his collection of several thousand Mausers.
Oh.
And it was one of the most educational afternoons of my life. And you could look at them and be like, wow, you could tell this was made in Egypt. Like, fucking retarded, man. Like, you're just looking at it and you're like, wow. Did you even try? Like, I feel like I could do this better in my metal shop in the workshop. Like,
and I've said it before on the show, but I think it bears repeating because it's something our own military could stand to do. The Egyptian military has to pay for itself, or at least it used to. And so they made everything from toaster ovens to refrigerators to AKs to build their military budget. And I love the shit out of the idea of not paying taxes for the military industrial complex and instead for the military to come up with its own little projects or whatever. I don't know that it's necessary. I'm not saying that with having thought about it for several hours. I just think taxation is theft, and that the Egyptian government was like, hey, don't steal from our people, pay your own way, I think is awesome.
No, see, that's the value of this discussion, is that, like, I can have this opinion that is like, I've seen the end product, right? And be like, wow, that's fucking terrible. And then the balance that Brian just added is like, yeah, but they didn't pay for this other thing, which is the actual real cost that we as citizens of the United States have to pay daily when we get raked on our taxes.
Right.
Okay, so I will give you the names of the countries that had licensed versions.
Oh, did you find it? I found a little quick thing here. It says over 30 countries, including China, Israel, India, Egypt, and Nigeria.
Not under license, though. That's who produced it.
These are the licensed ones.
This says also licensed.
Yep, some are licensed, some weren't.
Okay.
But I'll do it in reverse alphabetical because that makes the most sense. So obviously it starts with Yugoslavia. Venezuela has a license, but they're building the factory. Romania, Poland. Then there was a version of it made for Italy, but that was an import only. And Nigeria has one. Egypt, Hungary, Ethiopia, East Germany, Egypt, Bulgaria, and Albania. And Azerbaijan had one, but I don't know if that was a licensed one or not.
So I'm going to say like 7 of those actually count.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm looking at this list.
I thought the number hard was 7.
Yeah, 7 sounds like it counts. I mean,
because
Albania, Ethiopia, Venezuela, who gives a shit?
Yeah, but like then you look at some of these and like Yugos are completely different.
Yeah, they butchered it.
Yeah, they fucked that away.
No disrespect to the Yugo fans out there. No, there's a bunch of you. By all means, go to Faktory47.com, buy some Yugo shirts right now. But they definitely changed the platform.
One of my favorite guns is an M92. Okay, like
yeah, because you can make a 7.62 crank. I love it.
Now, I took it and I SBR'd it.
Yeah, I have 6 of them.
Yeah, like it's fan-fucking-tastic.
7.62 crank, best shit ever. It's like taking and making an SBR AR, only you don't have to fold the stupid buffer tube thing. You can actually fire it when it's small. Imagine that.
And I have a Manticore Arms folding triangle on the son of a bitch. Like the thing is nasty,
right? I had the bolt chromed and it's beautiful. It's a fun gun to shoot. It's excellent, but none of the other parts play.
Nope.
So I'm looking at Venezuela. Nah, doesn't matter. Romania definitely matters. Poland definitely matters. Nigeria. Bulgaria matters.
Hungary.
Germany and Egypt count.
Egypt.
It counts. It counts.
It counts, but they suck.
It doesn't matter. It's an AKM, and it's the closest copy of the Russian there is.
Yeah, but I would say
just,
out of those,
just because the parts are crudely marked,
Okay,
they got some
James,
cheating.
okay. Pick two. Who you got?
For what?
Oh, this is a fun game.
I like that.
No,
Pick two.
I'm playing.
Wait. While these two are battling it out, everybody else go
Pick
to
two.
Facebook
No,
and
what?
Instagram and pick your questions from our listeners.
What's the question?
No, pick two out of the list. Pick two.
Pick
You
two
can't
what?
Pick Russia. You parts kits, let's say.
No, you can't pick. You're not allowed to pick Russia.
Are you asking me to pick my favorite AK or my favorite AK parts
Out of
kit?
that list that he
Out
gave
of
us
this
license-
list,
out of the licensed list, pick two.
Pick two that I would want to own or something? Or what do we do?
Out of the best.
The best.
The best parts, James. This should not be hard for you.
This is
I
easy.
want an
Germany.
Albanian one
Yes.
because it's weird.
If we're saying best, like as quality, what I think are the best, I'm going to say Germany out of that list is number one.
Germany was
And
on the list. Oh, East
was on the
Germany.
list.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm looking. I abbreviated. Yeah.
Okay, I got Germany and Poland in my personal opinion.
Yep. I agree. 100%.
I think Bulgaria is under Poland. A lot of people would disagree with that. I got Germany and Poland.
Okay. If we're going top four, I'm going. I agree with your two, right? But I'm inverting those other two. I really like the Bulgy shit.
I do like Bulgy. I just think Poland's a bit higher quality. And if
I
we're
know.
going to go with AK producing
friendly.
countries, if we're
No,
going
Curtis, shut
AK
your
producing,
whore mouth.
I'm with him. Shut your whore mouth for a minute.
There
If we're
are
going
countries in
AK-producing
Poland.
countries.
There are companies in Poland.
No, fuck companies. We're talking about military shit here.
Yeah.
Hey,
We're
we're
James on this one.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, man. We're talking about
Whose blood pressure's up now?
Did the Russians give license to some company to butcher their shit? No. Come on. We're talking about the real thing here. The country on the whole. If we're going top quality of all AK producing countries, China. Period. End of subject.
Ooh.
He just dropped the hammer.
Boom.
Actually,
uncomparable.
Actually,
Next to Russia.
not wrong.
Nope. Way
Not
number
wrong.
one.
Not wrong. Because you know what the Chinese are really good at? Stealing shit.
And making it
Hey, you know
better.
Fun fact on that. Fun fact. I'm glad you brought that up because I want to make my final case on why the AK is better than the AR. Ready for my mic drop? The Chinese never stole the AR. Boom! Boom!
Can't argue with that.
Neither did the Russians.
All right. Moving on. Let's get to our listener questions here and give some shit away, and
I'm
let's
on the
wrap this
AK
up.
team, so I don't give a shit.
You do what?
I'm on the AK team, so.
All right. So everybody, I want everybody to go to Instagram, Facebook, and I want you to
God.
pick
Also,
your comment.
the Chinese
See, the
did
problem
totally
is I have
steal the AR.
I have a whole bunch of comments on my Facebook post, but I can't see any of them for some reason. Like I think they.
So go to
Hold
my
my
Facebook post. Go to Talking
Okay.
Lead's Facebook post.
That was the
It's-
Norinco CQ that China stole, by the way.
Instagram and Facebook. So I'm going to start. Is anybody there yet? I'm going to.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're there.
I'm on Facebook.
Okay. So
Instagram.
Nick, I want you to pick one of the Facebook comments there. Your favorite one. Read it, and then that's going to be our first winner. And we're giving away the Seal 1 cleaning kit first. Seal 1.
As I go through this, like I go through and look and see, and I am not just picking this person because they totally chose the right team. But
It's your prerogative, so you're choosing.
I am picking it because I think we have a right amount of people here to answer the second half of this question.
Okay.
And
Shoot.
this is from 5 hours ago. It is Dan El Americano.
Okay.
On Facebook.
Long-time listener and supporter.
And he says, AR gets my vote. How hard or how difficult is it to put together a Galil rifle kit?
Good luck, bud.
I saw that same one. I was
Depends
like,
if you got the tools or not.
Like, that's a solid question. Harder than an AK.
For sure.
Yeah.
Harder than an Uzi?
Nah.
No.
Probably less things to mess up than an Uzi because you don't have to make sure you have the tab welded on before you finish the receiver,
So
insert the pistol grip
scale
in.
of 1 to 10, AR being on the easy level of 2, and an AR being or an AK being a 6. What's a Galil?
From sourcing the parts and what I've seen, probably like an 8.
Yeah. I mean, that barrel is hydraulic pressed into that receiver and threaded at the same time. I mean, pulling the barrel on the Galil itself has been painful enough, and many people that have called saying, I shot my barrel out, I want to have it pulled, but I can't get the damn thing off. I only know 3 people in the country that have been able to pull them so far.
Oh, shit. So it's a 10.
And I disagree with your scale. I also disagree with your scale because coming from somebody who makes ARs commercially, ARs are like a 0.5.
Okay.
On the easy.
I was being generous, you know.
No, I'm serious. Like they really give people in general a false sense of their technical capabilities.
Yeah.
But ARs are still easy as far as comparatively speaking.
Brian, you know Daniel Fisher over at K&S and Haikun, correct?
I have heard of this man, and he sounds awesome, but I do not know him.
Yeah, so he had to make a custom wrench. We put 15 tons of pressure on the receiver, and it took me and him and an 8-foot breaker bar bouncing on it to break our barrel loose.
Yeah,
to make
he's
that
the guy who he gave me a walkthrough of a few things from an SOT perspective that is probably proprietary information that I was very great. And man is a genius.
Yes.
So to answer his question, it's not
Very
something
hard.
he's going to be able to do.
Send it to somebody else, Gary Hughes or
there you go.
Daniel Fisher, Dissonant Arms, or maybe if you can convince Brian enough, he'll do it for you.
Brian, are you on Instagram?
Yeah, he's like fuck.
Well, no, just we don't do custom work, and people.
Yeah.
We're not really
So
collabing.
Brian's not going to do that. Yeah. All right, next one. Let's go to the next one. Who's on Instagram?
I am.
Okay.
Garth is.
All right. Pick an Instagram question.
This comes from J. Edgar Paradox.
They're going to win one of the AK or Factory 47 T-shirts.
Okay. This says, discuss the effective range of both. Is it a myth that the AR is about twice as far as the AK? On a side note, every other country, including the USA, has a love affair with the AK. Not so much for the AR. Just saying.
China. Just saying China. Who was that?
J. Edgar Paradox.
Okay, J. Edgar Paradox. You won the Factory 47 T-shirt. Email me, talkinglead@gmail.com. Same thing with the previous guy. Who was that? Dan Americano?
Yep, Dan L. Americano.
Talkinglead@gmail.com. You won the Seal 1 kit. So answer that question.
So, effective range of an M16, you're looking at point target M16 is easy 600 meters. Like, that's the easiest way to put it. So what is your point target range of a AK-47?
400.
It's not quite double, but yes, it is longer for the AR than the AK.
Depending on which
I would
AK.
personally argue that...
Depending on which AK you're shooting. Yeah.
Well, and we can wring steel out of 500 or 600 all day long. However, if you're shooting an intermediate cartridge outside of 200 yards and you have a fight on your hands, I sure hope you have a belt fed and a guy on a bolt gun. And, you know, these assaulters' weapons is what I call them, because that's the best description of what they're really good for, is that intermediate range kind of thing. And so, for, you know, at the risk of, I think it's a good question, but I also would redirect it around to, let's not pretend that either the AR or the AK is a really good fit out at 600.
That is correct. I mean, you're losing a lot. I have shot prairie dogs at 500 to 600 yards with ARs, and they still pop. But
and we're talking the 223.556 AR.
Correct.
chamber.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. My personal record with a 20-inch AR is 847 meters. So
Solid.
I had
that's a long with a 5.56 gun. That's a long fucking way.
And it was a Vortex 1-4 PST.
Damn.
I'm just gonna.
All right, next, who's James?
Vortex.
You picked one?
Just gonna.
What's I got I just think it's kind of funny. FPS Murdoch on Instagram. He says it's the Indian, not the arrow, but if I have to choose, it's the AK. I didn't find any on here with questions, so I just went with him because I thought that was funny.
Okay, he's going to win the IWI package that Jeremy's going to put together.
He's absolutely right. At the end of the day, it's who's behind the gun on which one's better.
Very good. So that's FPS Murdoch?
Yeah, yes. And I would have to second that because, like, I see another comment from him that says AK is better because why? Because Brian Keeney doesn't make space hitch ARs. I'm like,
where's that one at?
That's on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Mine was on Instagram. He must be
Murdoch. Email me, talkinglead@gmail.com. You know it. Yeah. And you're going to win one of Jeremy's IWI swag packages. Jeremy, who'd you pick?
Let's see what this guy's actual name is on Instagram. So Andy Burner, I guess.
Okay, and he's going to win a AK Korner dump tray from Mission First Tactical.
This is a pretty good question. He goes overall I'm Team AK, but both rifles have their place. My question for each of the guests, what is the biggest flaw in your opinion with the AR or AK that drives you to run the other platform?
So I'll tell you on mine, I as much of an AK guy as I am, my predominant rifle that goes with me everywhere is still my AR. One of the reasons is I don't have an Occam yet, so that would fix part of my problem. But two things on the AK platform. One is because the mags are so curved, up until a few years ago, it's been very hard to effectively carry a good loadout. Things like the taco pouches and these types of innovations have come along and have made it very interchangeable with AR, and you can just stuff AK mags and go, and that makes it very nice. The second is if you take your traditional AK, which I have a lot of, and you are going to do some good guy hero shit, you look at any of these recent shootings that come into mind, if you go running out of your car or house or wherever with an AK, pop culture tells everybody around you that you're the bad guy and you're part of the problem, not the solution. And so that's a big flaw, I think, of the platform, that things like the Occam and the Merc handguard modernize the platform. The obvious thing that goes along with that is that you can add optics effectively, flashlights, and some of these extra accoutrements, if you will, that make you more effective. The reason I'm not commenting on that specifically is those take effective training, and I haven't done enough of that to be super confident or super practical with like low light situations, things like that. So those are going to be added benefits later, but right now the AK is not kind of my primary for those reasons.
If I could add to what he said, basically, because I just have like one small bolt-on to everything he said, which is kind of the reason why I choose the AR for my, as I said, like right here, right next to where I'm sitting, this thing is magnetized to the wall, I just envied my life. on camera. So the modularity of this thing, being able to add the attachments at a lower weight cost. This little shorty right here, for anybody who isn't watching the video, I'm holding a short AR that has a built-in folding operational stock. This is not a gay-ass law folder.
Is that a Deadfoot?
Yeah, it's Deadfoot. This thing is super light, and I broke my hand this year, for instance, and I was able to operate this gun with a broken hand the entire time. Better than I can operate a handgun. And that's really what it came down to me, is there was enough training instilled, and the system was in a small enough containable package that I was able to use it even severely injured. And that's really what it came down to.
You guys don't know how happy you're making me right now. I called Dooley on the way down. I'm like, dude, 99 out of 100 guys, if shit pops off, they're going to grab their AR way before they grab their AK. And to hear two of you guys say it, I'm just laughing my ass off right now.
Well, don't get carried away. My solution to my problem...
Not so fast!
My solution to my problem is my SBR Occam side folder. And the only reason that's not up and running is because it's in NFA jail right now.
Well,
Here you go.
I also, having tested multiple Occams, do not currently own such a thing. So
that's the thing, though. Right
You
now,
gotta fix yourself, boy.
there's a dude right over
There's
here.
a list you can get on to fix that.
On us, he's
Dude right over here.
for us, he's above you.
All right, next question. So that one was Jeremy. You did that. Who was that? Do you remember?
Andy something.
Andy Bruner, I think it was, or Burner.
Yep.
Okay, Andy, email me. You win the dump tray. So we've got a Geisley AR-15 bayonet mount that I'm going to be giving away.
Hey, real quick, Marty, I wanted to give a shout out to IWI. The big downside that I see to the AK that I really lust after with the AR is the ambidextrous thumb safety. I think that's a major flaw, especially in manufacturability. You guys wouldn't believe how much time I spend tuning in the safeties, me personally, on every gun that goes out the door. And IWI figured this out a long time ago, and it's really nice, and they do a good job with it. So that's in my mind the one thing that I haven't yet ripped off from the AR that I plan to on our guns eventually. It's not in the works at the moment, but it will happen eventually.
Okay, you're picking the next one, Brian.
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot.
Mm-hmm. Pay attention, son. And this is the for the Geisley. They call it a super stabby bayonet mount. So you can put it on an AK or an AR as long as you got.
Yeah.
Pick a team.
Here's a good one. Troy STX.
Okay.
Troy, like, the city or city-state. S is in Sierra. TX is in Texas. There are a lot of factors, both unique to and missing from competition. But what people choose to run says a lot about platforms. Slight competitive advantages often beat out brand or other preferences. Even when 7.62 is allowed, doesn't the AR still dominate the competition scene?
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
It's because a mediocre user of an AR can still change mags faster than like most of your highly trained users with an AK. Just the way the magazine latches work. I know there are people that can do it way faster. It just takes less time to learn that movement than it does to run an AK.
Very good.
Your area of forgiveness too, as distance continues to poke out, BC is a real thing and wind is a real thing.
Okay, I'm going to pick the next one, and the next one is going to win the next IWI package from Jeremy. And this is... I got to put my damn glasses on. Where are they?
You fucking old piece of shit.
Fuck you. I'm gonna
Maybe just hold it up to the screen and we'll read it.
Okay, you ready for it? 14 Taylor 2012 14 Taylor 2012 looks like. 14 Taylor 2012. This is on Instagram. AK for sure. That's who they're picking, Team AK. And I know Brian is working on it, but any ideas with ODS 1775 setup in zeroing parallel versus point of impact? I don't know. Did I read that right?
This might be the guy. I'm not positive, but I have to show you guys the most deplorable hat in the nation. And it is almost enough to make me go back to California to walk down the streets of Santa Cruz, where I used to live, with this hat on.
U.S. Border Patrol?
U.S. Border Patrol. We got one of our buddies is down there, and his name is Taylor. I don't know if that's his handle. If I'm mistaken, it, sir, apologies. But I'm not exactly sure. I think that might be a height over bore question, and that's an interesting thing we never got into with the ridiculous height over bore of the AR-15 of about 2.7 inches, and the very low and svelte and sexy 2 inches on the AK. And,
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be devil's advocate. How high does a 5.56 cartridge rise at a 50-yard zero?
Do you want the answer to that?
Yeah.
On a 50-yard zero, the 5.56 cartridge raises about 3/4 of an inch
above
where it's at. So it'd be about 3/4 of an inch high at 100 or 125. I think is where it's at its apex.
Mm-hmm. So having that higher sight radius then centers the optic at the upper echelon of the ballistic arc. So that means that your line of sight down the ballistic arc, most of it is going to be below the optic. So that when you get out to those longer distances, your same point of aim is going to give you a better impact on the target. And I think this was most aptly demonstrated if you ever went to the tactical response demonstration, where they basically took the targets and they cut the center out of them and shot a target at 400 yards, and the bullet never touched the center of they had the center cutouts of the targets, and it passed through all the targets without hitting anything. You can see very aptly that the deviation, because your optic is raised to the point at where it is, that the bullet has to rise to the optic, and because of that, the ballistic arc is the optic ends up centered in that. Whereas when you're using a traditional rifle sight that is closer to the barrel, you end up with a more radical arc to be able to achieve the same distances.
Well, that's one of the things where part of the reason why when they do training and sighting, like the military sights all their rifles in, or U.S. military does, at 25 meters, because at 25 meters and 300 meters, they're crossing through the same plane. Allegedly, it's not exactly, but
yeah, but however, and I'm going to sound like a pompous asshole right here. They're fucking wrong.
Yeah, it's not entirely.
The 50-yard zero is way superior. The 50-yard zero is way superior.
Typically, if the military is doing it, it is wrong.
Yeah,
you don't need to know why.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if ballistically speaking, on a 5.56 cartridge, the 50-yard zero is far superior to the 25-yard zero. You get a 25 400 versus a 20, or you get a 50 400 versus a 25 300.
So can Brian finish now, or?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, Kurt is pointing out something really cool about.
I have to get my blood pressure back down.
Effectively linearizing, bullets travel in a parabolic arc, like one of the golden arches on McDonald's, right? And so I don't have strong opinions about what zeros people use, because it's the same parabolic arc no matter what you do. And if you draw one half of the golden arches on a sheet of paper and then take another piece of paper and tilt it and move it up and down, That's all you're doing with your sighting system, because the photons of light don't bend. The bullet does. So no matter what, you're going to be picking a spot on the curve and drawing a line through it, and it's going to intersect at 2 points. It's not magic. The 5200 is not special. You could do a 47 195, right? So you're what Kurt's describing is that the height over bore of the AR uniquely matches the bullet drop. You know, that trajectory is unique to different cartridges based on a couple different parameters. And what he's saying is that basically you get a really sweet line off the AR-15 and where it intersects those golden arches, and it lies more readily on top of the arch for more of the arch than other zeros. Am I understanding you correctly?
Dude, science is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for.
So this was all started by 14 Taylor 2012 on Instagram. Email me, talkinglead@gmail.com. You won the IWI second package. And we got one more giveaway.
And a lesson in
without
biology.
the ability to draw that, like on the screen, it's difficult to really show that.
Hey, you're a YouTuber. Make a video about it.
I did. I made like 7 or 8 about.
Draw it on the next one though. Like animation.
I literally have. I've done
I want like paper animation, like South Park.
No, I have. That's just it. I have done that.
Okay, but
so
I
go to
Brian
VSO
Taylor's
Gun Channel. All right, we're moving on, guys. We're moving on. We're moving on.
You dick.
So Marne Dooley wants to know: are there going to be any Hawaiian shorts? Do you guys have Hawaiian shorts on? Marne wants to know.
I could.
They're pantsless.
I could throw my Ranger panties on for her.
Oh, don't.
She's there, right there. So another Hawaiian shirt.
Wait a minute. You're sitting there, both of you, side by side.
Abplanap. Already made my argument on IG, but let's just say I don't own any Hawaiian shirts. I do, however, own a closet full of Adidas tracksuits. So there you go. That's Aura Abplanap. And then our winner for the last prize, and this is did we say we're giving away 2 AK shirts? Is that right, James?
Yeah.
All right, second AK Korner T-shirt, and hopefully somebody will be able to help us answer this question. And it's from Jessie Badal. She emailed me. It says, Lefty, got some questions about AKs. You know I love them. Sorry if you've answered this already, but how can I attach a light to my KP9? I recently won a mod light and would love to do night competitions with my KP9. So you may be familiar with
duct tape.
The KP9?
Duct tape.
Is that the newest one from Kalashnikov?
Yes.
Concern or USA?
So
does that have M-Lock on it? I honestly don't know.
Not sure. I'm not familiar with that. But so you guys know we are possibly going to be having KUSA on. So I'll address that with them on the episode.
It does not look
that we have.
So this to me, looking at a picture of the KP9, because I'm not well versed in the Kalashnikov USA line. Yeah. I have wanted to work with them, but they've blown me off a few times. I think they're scared.
I wonder why they would be scared of going on your channel.
Yeah, legitimate. However,
it does look to take some sort of standardized looking AK furniture. Yes. So if that's standard AK furniture, then there's a plethora of options on
there are some,
the lower handguard and Ultimax and things like that.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, and Midwest Industries also makes a handguard for almost everything that's a gun and some things that aren't a gun. And like they've got to have a handguard out for the KP9.
My question is, it looks really short, and I'd have to wonder. I have to directly check to see if Midwest makes a handguard that is short enough to meet that. I feel like they do, but it had to be definitive. And I would tell her, it's a her?
Yes, Jessie is her. She shoots competition.
Okay. Yeah. Jessie, specifically measure. And if you message the people at Midwest Industries, I guarantee you Pete will email you and tell you the answer.
I got a connection at KUSA, and I will hook you up, Jessie. We'll get this answered for you. Not a problem.
If you'd like, maybe hook up Curtis too. He's pretty bitter about this.
So Jesse, you won the AK Korner T-shirt from Factory 47. If you're jealous and you didn't win and you want some swag, some T-shirts, Talking Lead AK Korner from Factory 47, you can go to their website, use the code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 10% off, and that would be anything there, not just the AK Korner products. They've got some cool hats. They've got other tumblers. They've got other shirts besides ours. But the cool thing about them is that James prints on both sides. You get a really cool front logo AK design, and then on the back, you'll get something too. And that's on the hoodies also. At least it is with our hoodies. I don't know if you do that on all your hoodies.
So it depends on the design. Some designs have them, some don't.
Yeah.
Oh, and I also don't have any fucking Factory 47 gear.
Pretty lame.
Somebody
heard over somebody doesn't have a credit card.
Curtis, I get you 10% off. Use code LEADHEAD. You get 10% off Factory 47.
If you talk to Talking Lead, he can network you through the guy.
I know a guy there.
No, for you guys listening with Kurt, the awesome thing about Kurt's business is that he is a product testing company. He is not a paid advertiser. Kurt and I are pretty good friends, and like I paid him money as Kurt states very publicly, to review my gun, and Kurt beat the fuck out of me on that one. And so, like, he will be really hard on you no matter what. However, what you can guarantee going to VSO is that his name, he is not a shill. He doesn't shill for nobody. And it's really awesome. And he gives for you advertisers or producers out there, he gives exceedingly good product feedback. And so the 1775 is heavily influenced by Kurt's testing, and it's more like a Consumer Reports deal than it is like going to someone to do the razzle dazzle on the gun.
To add to that, what he puts out in a video is only about a third of what we as a manufacturer get back in data on the review on what was actually being done to it.
Yep.
Along with that, you'll get your rifle or pistol back, and it looks like it's probably gone through some type of foreign country, mud, sand, whatever. But, I agree with every bit of that, Brian, and that's why we send stuff there.
You guys are too kind. Thank you very much.
Have you done a drag test lately, Curtis?
I haven't.
We need to do that.
If we send you a T-shirt, don't send the shit back and covered in mud. Just keep it.
It'll be covered in something else.
See, that's the scheme. They don't want it back, so I end up with a whole bunch of broken ass guns.
You need to send Curtis. You need to send Curtis one of these shirts, James.
Yeah, he's just wear it. Don't product test it. Just enjoy it. Jesus Christ!
Don't use it for a rag.
It's going to come back with a silencer
of that sort. But
it's going to come. What did you say? Come back wrapped in the silencer? Is that how it's going to come?
Yeah.
So
it's fine, right? We just fucking file a paperwork after
that. Does it for another episode of the Talking Lead AK Korner Leadheads. Appreciate everybody tuning in. All the participation that we got from our listeners. Appreciate our team guest, Curtis at the VSO Gun Channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on. Always a wealth of knowledge. Jeremy,
Great.
IWI US, thank you so much for the support of the AK Korner. We couldn't do it without you guys and all the input that you have with our show too, with you and Tom, and looking forward to having you back on.
Sounds good.
James, Factory 47. Again, we couldn't do this without you guys. Appreciate everything that you do for the show, the contributing with the knowledge and of course the AK-47 apparel, baby, living that AK life.
Thanks for having me on. Nice hanging out with you guys tonight.
Real quick, give a plug. Factory 47, you guys got anything new going on?
Nothing to announce today, but next show I will have something for you.
Which next show we're going to be talking trench art, baby. Trench art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun show. The guys at the AR-15 podcast couldn't have done this episode without you guys. Definitely great podcast.
The guy at the AR-15 podcast.
You're a little shy there, Garth.
No, you guys just know a shit ton more about him than I do. So I just listened. I learned some shit tonight.
There you go. So plug the AR-15
Please do
podcast.
not ever use me as a primary resource.
I'm gonna
validate all the information.
So many times.
We don't.
So many
Thank
times.
you. Please.
Talk about the AR-15 podcast, Nick.
So AR-15 podcast, we're on the same network as Talking Lead is, Firearms Radio Network. You can find us on Facebook, AR15podcast.com, Instagram, AR15podcast 2.0, and Gmail, AR15podcast 2.0 at gmail.com.
And then you also have a training company, Dooley Defense.
Yep. We got Dooley Defense. We're still going classes, still selling guns and silencers and stuff like that, and doing all that stuff behind us.
Okay, very good. Give my best to the wife. Garth, appreciate you joining us, buddy. You're welcome back anytime.
She's right behind us and saying hi. So,
what's up, Shorty Short?
Hi.
There she is.
Dude, she is way prettier than you are.
He does not deserve her at all.
Oh no, he married up big time.
Big time.
Big time.
Yeah, he's definitely well outside his insurance coverage.
Oh yeah.
Well, I have a money-making family right now.
That was inappropriate, sir.
But true. And then, of course, I couldn't do this show without Brian Keeney. I mean, he makes it each and every episode except one. And he barely didn't make it on this one. But Occam Defense Solutions, again, we couldn't do this without the support from companies like Occam, IWI, Mission First Tactical, SEAL One. Really go and show them some love. Go to their Instagrams, go to their Facebooks, let them know how much you appreciate them making this AK Korner each and every month possible. Going into our third year now. This is our total in all episodes, 10 years of Talking Lead, 399 episodes. This is our 399th episode. Going to be having the big 400 coming up next episode. So make sure you guys tune in for that. But the best thing that you can do is go and buy their products. Go to their websites. Use these discount codes when we have them set up for you. I try to make them available to you each and every episode. I post them on social media. If you don't get a code and you need a code, email me, talkinglead@gmail.com, and we will hook you up. Definitely.
Hey, Lefty.
Yeah.
Let's it's been a good time, and I told you I would do something different. At NRA,
yes,
let's
sir.
give away a Galil, and you find a way to do something with it. Like make it
And basically what that amounts to is that you give it to me.
So we'll combine. Maybe we do a Galil 5.56, so we get the AK variant and the AR caliber just to piss off some people. But
awesome.
Figure it out. You figure out how the people have to qualify, and then during the NRA show Saturday, we'll go live on whoever, and we'll figure it out.
Holy shit! All right, do you want me to put this on the show?
Yeah, right now.
That's okay. He just did it. There you go, Leadheads. Holy shit, that's awesome, dude. Thank you. Yes, we will come up. I'll get with you, and we'll come up with some cool-ass way to give that away. Definitely.
It'd be a good time.
Or how about maybe the Leadhead send us some suggestions on how to go about giving that away. TalkingLead@gmail.com. NRA 2021. It's in Houston on some cool ways that we could go about giving away that Galil. Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. Fuck yeah.
Yep. Good time.
Brian, Occam Defense Solutions. Talk about you guys always got something new and exciting going on there. What haven't you told me about lately?
Well, we got 3 different lengths of strut at this point. And I was actually I have Curtis to thank for that in educating me a bit. So we've got a 9, an 8, and a 7.5. The 7.5 is super cool for those smaller statured people with those short little arms.
Hey,
and
fuck you. Just because you're a goddamn giant.
He's not that big. I mean,
yeah, not that big, man.
He's normal sized.
When I did my first video with Brian, I had to stand on a concrete block to be able to fit the same frame.
It made great video. Yeah. And then we got
At least you didn't look like a hobbit next to him like I do.
Yeah, because you are shorter than us.
So we've got a pretty cool folding stock as well that's got a triangle deal, sling points pretty much everywhere on it, so you can really dial it in for what you like. People report it being extremely comfortable to shoot. It's up on the video right now. It will accept a Rifle Dynamics stock pouch. Uses the SIG hinge. It's pretty fun. We've also got Mercs in stock, our pre-float handguard for the AK. We have PH1 peep sights. We got all that stuff in stock at the moment. We do sell out fairly regularly. Please be patient with us. We're small. People sometimes think we're a 50-person outfit. We're 4 dudes in a shop, and we try and crank out as much as we can. We're growing fast. Actually, the big news is we just doubled our production capacity with a very high-speed CNC, another CNC from Oz. We will never be able to double our production so easily again. And so we're trying to work through all that demand. We do, however, have availability sitting right about 4 weeks right now on a custom rifle or pistol. We also have rack guns. We have a bunch of new dealers. Royal Range, Oryx Firearms.
Nashville, Tennessee, baby. Royal Range, USA.
Oryx, also in Texas. And then we've got, we got Oryx in Texas, and also the transfer station just came online. Angelus Armory in near Los Angeles there. Really good guys at all these shops. They're good people, and so check them out.
Very cool. And OccamDefense.com.
That's correct, sir.
All right. Any final parting words from anyone?
See everybody at NRA.
There you go.
Is that a thing that we're doing? Are we doing this?
NRA?
I will be at NRA.
Yeah. When is this happening?
It's Memorial Day weekend.
September 2nd, 3rd, 4th?
Labor Day weekend?
Labor Day weekend, one of the two. Yeah, I don't know. It's in September.
Yeah. We will be at Kel-Tec's booth, the lead quarters, giving away a Galil, baby. I love it.
Make sure everyone's getting involved and sending in comments to the ATF specifically on the newest thing about pistol braces to make sure that they don't attack rights any more than they already are. They just released those yesterday or the day before that the comment period is open for pistols. So everyone make sure that you are filling out a comment and sending it in. And do it right. Don't swear. Be polite. Have some poignant thought to it.
And guys, for anybody who's listening to this and says, "Oh, they don't listen to that stuff. That shit doesn't matter," shut the fuck up. Okay? Because we've been through this multiple times. I'm not going to go through the lineage of things that the ATF has proposed that we as the people have shot down by being active on those forums. But you needn't look no further than just a few months ago. They tried to pull the same shit, and we shot them down. So
what Kurt and Nick said, totally. I got half of the comments when I posted about the comment period last time in social media where that's a waste of your time. And unlike voting, the public comment section actually does work.
If they would have just taken the time to go to the ATF and fill out the form there instead of responding to you and trying to beat you up, they could have done it.
In the amount of time that it takes you to leave a comment on Instagram, you could have done the same thing over at the ATF.
Exactly.
And actually filled part of the queue, and it's that simple. It doesn't take that much time. Now, if you want to go the next step further, though, that is to contact your elected officials, because ultimately, any rule change that the ATF does institute from a major ban standpoint is going to have some kind of legislative component.
So I'm working on getting Derek back on the show, Curtis, our friend Derek, the lawyer, the gun lawyer, munitions law group. Had him on a few episodes.
Yeah, I do call him my attorney.
Yep. Yes. So we're gonna go over this, and then we're gonna go over the California thing that just happened in California with the judge there overruling, saying
fantastic,
unconstitutional.
Great.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. It's coming up in the regular episode of the Talking Lead
But
podcast.
there are things that but the bottom line here is there are things that you can do.
Yeah.
And you should be doing them. And they don't take that much effort. Put your dick down, put the sticks down, stop scrolling on TikTok, spend a few seconds.
Very good. And that's a good one to end on there. So leadheads until the next AK Korner, which we're going to be talking trench art. Looking forward to that one. We're going to have Jason with Skill Set Magazine on, Jason Swar. We're going to have James with Faktory 47. We're going to have Brian Keeney. And any of you other guys that are on here, if you want to join us for the trench art episode for the AK Korner, you're more than welcome. That's going to be next month in July. So until then, AK heads, keep emailing me. And go do that shit that Curtis and Nick just said.
Pornhub will be there when you come back.